Hi everyone, and welcome back to Farrand on Film. Today we are bringing you our spoiler review, similar to what we did with Spider-Man: No Way Home, but this time for the Batman. I've once again been joined by Ty and Ollie. As if you're on YouTube watching this, you will be able to see. If you're on the podcast, you're just hearing voices again. You know, it is the way that it is. It's just now that we're really conscious about what we're doing. Because me and Ty always say this when we do the wrestling podcast, we just start looking down and we start looking at our phone and all this other kind of stuff. Now we've got to be kind of receptive. Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Well, I always look at my screen and my camera is up there. Like it's not, my camera's not connected to my laptop. So my camera's there, but I look there.
Yeah, so you're always looking down anyway.
So I'm always looking down. So yeah, I'm like...
Is that helpful to anybody?
No, I need a mirror, I think, and then I can talk to myself. Maybe that's what I need. I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's all good.
Yeah, it'll be right. So we all watched the Batman yesterday. So as we record this and as it's going out, it's Saturday the 5th of March,
yeah.
And we all went to go and watch Batman yesterday. Ty went early in the morning. So he's fine. He's well rested, you know, apart from the fact that he's had pleurisy and all that kind of stuff. Ollie, you went, I think, a little bit earlier than me.
Yeah, I went at its screening started at 7, so the film started at about 7:30 because of all the trailers and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I was in for 8. I was in for an 8 o'clock screen at the IMAX in Manchester. Didn't get home till at least 1:45. So yeah, pooped. But here we are. We've all been looking forward to it, and I think the first thing we should do is kind of how Ty started this video call with me, and he said, "What did you think of it?" So Ollie, sort of not too detailed. What did you think?
Just 5 words.
5 words. I have to count them then. My brain's shut off. It's Saturday.
What one sentence? That's it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
That'll
Simple
do.
as that's all I need to give
That'll
it.
do.
I loved it. Really loved it.
Ty?
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, we'll say.
Okay.
Like, not that I didn't think it would be good. I would just, like, as people know, I'm like a huge Batman fan, and it's one of them situations where you're always kind of like, this could go one way or the other. You know what I mean? And I don't really care what like critics say in that, but like, I want to like it. I don't want to like come out and be like, right, okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, which I haven't done yet, and I did really enjoy it, but I was like really surprised at how good it was. Like, yeah, skeptical.
I enjoyed it. There's a lot to mull over, and I think I probably am going to go and see it again.
Yeah, just probably,
because I think what always happens with ones like this is that I go in almost assuming it's going to go a certain way, and then I have to kind of really think about my own opinion of it, and then when I go back and know what it is and know what it's trying to do, I can then appreciate it again. Because again, like I was saying to you, Ty, that all I had in the back of my mind, and I tried not to do this as much as possible, was what if it's better than The Dark Knight? I don't think it is.
Nah, I don't think it is.
So I'm not kind of well.
I think it flirts with it personally.
I think there are elements of it, definitely.
There's moments of it where you do think, "Ooh, are we going somewhere with this?" But I think when you reflect on it overall, The Dark Knight it's The Dark Knight.
Like The Dark Knight as a film, like in itself as a contained, just that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that all right? All right.
Yeah. Right. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to rely very heavily on the kind people that have edited Wikipedia and put all the plot in. Because when we did the Spider-Man one, I had like a day, 2 days to write notes and all that kind of stuff. I've not done it overnight. So we'll go through as best as we can. I'm not going to kind of regurgitate the script. I know, tell me about it. I should have stayed up, shouldn't I? But we'll kind of hopefully hit points. And again, like we did when we did the Spider-Man one, if there's a point where you just want to pick up on something, by all means, just jump in. So, I mean, the film starts off with the murder of the mayor in office at the time, Don Mitchell. Now, I didn't think it was going to start that way, but the instant sort of tonal sort of giveaway for me was Riddler stood in the background like a horror villain, just stood there in the dark waiting. And I was like, I'm going to get on board with this. This is a serious Riddler that we've got here. And then it was almost like that uncomfortable weight of he's going to do something to this guy. He's going to attack this guy. When's it going to happen? And you're waiting and he turns the TV off and all that. And then that awful scream that he lets out before he whacks him over the head with that tool. I just thought this is setting everything up here exactly as we need it to. The one thing I liked about the opening sequence, and I mentioned this to you too, is there's a bit of a voiceover that we get from Batman where he's journaling and he's writing things down, and he's sort of he's almost like a Sherlock introspective sort of, I'm going to write everything down so I can keep track of everything. And I really wished that we would have got that further throughout the film, but it kind of just does away with it a little bit. We get it later towards the end, but I thought, oh, this is what we're getting then. We're getting an introspective Batman. We're getting him contemplating his decisions, and the voiceover is going to let us in a little bit on those things. But in terms of the first time we see Riddler, the sort of the crime scene afterwards as well, it was really moody and it was really dark. And all I could think in my head, Ollie, was Sam's going to love this. And I'm looking forward to seeing Sam on Monday so I can talk to him about it.
Manouche is going to love this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That intro scene for the Riddler, though.
Yeah.
Like you said, it sets the tone perfectly. I remember the first time I saw, like the first trailer for this where they're playing Something in the Way. And you see that scene of the Riddler like getting his gaffer tape ready, and it turns out it's for the mayor. And at that point, did you know that was meant to be the Riddler?
No, I was convinced it was Hush.
Yeah, it might have been Hush, and I remember that even flashing up at some point in the film. I can't remember when, but I'm bringing it up because I was like, "Oh, is that meant to be an Easter egg to Hush?" I don't think it was, but I don't know if has there been a Riddler like this in the comics stuff?
No.
Where they go full serial killer, Zodiac killer vibes.
There's probably elements of it, I would say, and the way he's done things, and like leaving the cards and stuff like that, and being like that type of sort of character, but to look like that and to go into it because the look is is mad. It's not like any Riddler that anyone knows, I don't think, which is really it's really good. But then these part of me that's like, shit, you couldn't have had this Riddler dressed in like a suit with question marks on. So the best thing they did was to totally take it away and just be like, the only thing we need is for it to be green. And he's a lunatic and he's insane. But we're going to call him the Riddler rather than people knowing that he's the Riddler, which is, I think, is probably the best thing they did. Because
you get extra stuff now. It's on YouTube. Look at the difference of that.
Oh my!
It's God. Ridiculous, isn't it?
Mad.
That is night and day, and it's
the Zodiac killer.
Yeah,
it's the Zodiac killer. If you've seen the film Zodiac and one of the descriptions of the Zodiac killer from one of the survivors, that's the outfit. This weird kind of leathery coat, the weird combat rain mask or whatever it's meant to be.
I love that he puts his glasses over it as well.
Let's make sure I can see everything.
I still need me glasses. I'm gonna compromise the suit for me sight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Could you wear hey Ed, could you wear contacts, mate? No.
Not
the look.
Got to wear these see-through glasses.
Batman's got the contacts gimmicks in this one, so no one else can copy it. I liked that though.
That was really clever, And it wasn't just like a one-off, isn't this clever? They actually use it as a plot point.
But
I remember liking the narration as well, like you said, because it was very Like, and it's clearly one of the vibes that we're going for. It's very film noir.
Yes.
The brooding detective in his low, gruff voice talking about the cesspit of a city that he can't seem to let go of. Like, that's so cliche film noir and yeah, it would have been nice to get that at various moments throughout, but I was happy with the stuff we got with it as well. And him riding his little motorbike.
His little motorbike around.
Yeah.
That's kind of the look when he's on his bike with like the tackle pants and the helmet and the way he like kind of rides himself. That's very like year one.
Yeah.
If you read year one comics, that's very, very year one. But which I kind of liked. I like that it was like his suit didn't feel like it was every aspect of it was custom made to be a Batman suit. Like
bit cobbled together almost.
Yeah. I kind of like that. And like the bike and the fact that the car was such a big thing, but then it wasn't really a big thing. Like
the entrance to the car,
that was I quite like that. But
I know we're kind of like swapping around, so we'll come back to that in a little bit. But
we will. I remember as well falling in love. You know that shot? I think it is when, because I remember saying to you, I'm gutted that something in the way probably isn't going to appear.
I thought of you as soon as it started.
It did, but it wasn't the version in the trailer, you know, where they mixed in like that Batman motif of dun 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 dun, which, I mean, should I wax lyrical about Michael?
I was going to give you the time, but if you want to do it now, you can do it now.
I mean, there's not much to say except, oh my Jesus Christ, God, Michael. Just every bit of music in this was just stunning. Did it perfectly. It was absolute. Oh my God, he's getting up there as one of my favorites.
There was a point, a bit of music specifically. I mean, I liked the Selena Kyle stuff because it had that kind of sultry, almost tap dancey style to it. But there was a bit, I can't remember what it was. It was definitely a Riddler thing where he was just getting across insanity in the score, and it was that really awful sound of violins, and it just sounded manic.
Yeah.
And all I could think of in my head was like, this is someone having a psychotic breakdown in music. And it was it was absolutely perfect. So, I mean, to kind of go more into the story of it, I mean, we meet Alfred as well along the way. Andy Serkis's Alfred.
Oh my God.
Great job. Yeah.
He's not given a lot to do, but oh my God.
No, I wish he did more.
Why is this guy not on screen more? The amount he's been given over the years of, just put on a weird little bodysuit and we'll CGI over you later. Well, you know, we'll make you King Kong, we'll make you Gollum, we'll make you Caesar. Give the man more screen time. He's such a good actor. Oh, God.
For me, the thing about the Riddler is the intrigue, and it is the riddles, and it's the ciphers and all that kind of stuff. So I was well on board with this, with the whole, like, he lies still and they're trying to crack the code. But then I loved Alfred just sat there in the morning having his breakfast going, oh, yeah, I think I've done it. I think I've cracked this. And I found that, you know...
did you use, just to interrupt, when the riddles were happening, did you get any of the riddles?
I was trying to. I was trying along the way,
I got Eli still.
Yeah. I got that one. And I got as cliche as it, I got justice.
Yeah.
I got that one. I got that one as well.
When I leaned over to my missus and was like, oh, Eli's still. And she was like, what? And then Batman said it, and she was like,
well, I said that to I said to Georgia, it's like, is that a Riddler or is that just a joke?
Yeah.
Like,
I was
that seems more of a joke.
Yeah.
But I mean, we mentioned this with Gordon, in that it's quite funny that Gordon doesn't solve any of them. And then like Batman's just like, this is the answer. Let's move on.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about Batman's introduction, as it were.
Well, to kind of come back to it in a second, the way that the film opened with who we now know is the Riddler, looking through his sort of binoculars and looking at that family, I honestly thought that was Bruce, and we were getting the sort of, this is how Bruce's parents die, and you know we're doing the story that way. So I'm glad that we didn't do. But Batman's introduction, which we've kind of seen from the trailer of him just beating the thugs down, but it's
I
so
haven't
good.
seen the Sailors, by the way.
Did you not? All right, okay.
I don't watch Sailors.
So this was new for you.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Well, basically, it came from not to mix things and mention the dirty M word, but way back when, I think it was Iron Man 2 or 3, I watched the Sailor, probably 2. I watched the Sailor. I'm like, completely picked the story apart because I'd seen it, I'd read it before, basically. So I was like, I'm done. Any comics that I read, I'm not watching the Sailor because I always kind of like overanalyze everything.
Yeah. So well, going back to how you felt about the film as well, Ty, the idea that you were because you thought this could go one way or the other. I definitely thought that right up until I saw that first trailer, and I watched that first trailer. I was like, I think we're in good hands here. Yeah. I think they've shown us just the right amount because. So that shot of who are you supposed to be, and him cockily going up to Batman, and Batman just punching him way too much. Like they showed that because clearly, and it's horrible. It's not fair, but clearly the marketing department at Warner Brothers knew that a lot of people were probably like Robert Pattinson as Batman. What? Yeah. And so they showed that shot of him just like head wailing on the guy. And that was the point where I was like, oh, yeah, he can do this. Like, he's going to be fine. And his voice. Can I get your opinions on his voices, gentlemen?
The thing is, with the Christian Bale one, you know, favorite film, all that kind of stuff, I know it's distracting. And then the kind of gruff thing. I thought this was well pitched, perfectly pitched. There was no issue with it at all. No. And I think as well, the fact that, as they established later in the film, that Bruce Wayne's a recluse, he's not having to hide himself too much. Like, he is Batman. That's fundamentally what's happening here. So he doesn't have to go and... Yeah.
There is still a subtle difference between his voice and his Batman voice. Like, his voice is a tiny bit brighter. It's a little... Like, genuinely, the only similar kind of difference we've seen with this ever, really, is Kevin Conroy. Kevin Conroy is the only one who has subtly changed his Batman voice is like his Batman voice is his normal register, but he puts on this higher, more lyrical one for himself when he's Bruce Wayne, and he's a bit further along, so he's got the kind of dichotomy of it a lot more down than this one.
Yeah. So then I suppose the flip side is that with Christian Bale, it was Batman was the fake, Bruce Wayne was the real. This is flipping it on its head.
Yeah.
And it's like, is he putting on more of a sprightly voice because he has to be a certain way because he's Gotham's prince, you know, he's the first son of Gotham and whatever. But yeah, no,
I think this kind of shows more so than any other Batman. This is him still kind of learning to be Batman.
Yeah.
Like, and he hasn't, him being a recluse and him not being like the playboy and the doing his thing and all stuff like that. I think even like when he's doing certain things and he falls over or he trips or he like nothing's ever like smooth, or I think he like towards the end he comes to a window and he like falls on his ass, but like falls. And like Christian Bale would never do that. Like that would not.
It was always
everything would have been pristine and perfect.
Everything was like
you saw his training at the League of Shadows, didn't you? So you know that he's already been through a lot of that rigmarole. And you even get the montage at the beginning, like where he's like jumping away from Gordon, he breaks all his ribs, and he's like, I probably need to be able to glide around this city. That would help. But like I really like that, the way that he just like throughout the film he trusts his armor. It's something that I liked about Ben Affleck's Batman, actually, that he does just tank it because he's like, well, that's a pistol. My armor's going to put up to it, and yes, it's going to hurt. I'm going to hurt them more. Like I quite like that brutal. Like, did either of you get Netflix Daredevil vibes from this film?
Oh yeah, there were points. Yeah. I mean,
in the club when he's in the fight scene in the club, I was like, that's the hallway scene. Like that's the hallway fight scene. Like that's just it. But that's the thing. That's what I was saying before. Like I think his Batman is he kind of hasn't worked out how to be both of them yet.
Yeah. Yes. Because he's still he's new, isn't he? You know.
Yeah. Well, this is his second year, as he says. Yeah. So, and I think he's like, even when like Alfred's talking, he's like, I don't care about that because he can't focus on two separate lives yet. Like he's got to get this bit down, and then he can be Bruce Wayne, and he can like work the two of them. But at the minute, he's like, I just need to do this. I can't function as two separate people, and I think that's something that hasn't really been sort of looked at in a Batman film, really, because they've always been Batman for a little bit longer. Or as with Christian Bale, it was always the League of Shadows, so it was like he was taught discipline and stuff like that. He was taught certain things and to like be one thing and then be another, whereas this Batman hasn't at all. Just kind of going in, and as you say, he'll take a hit to give two. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
Well, I think the fight scene with the gang at the beginning does that really well, in that you see him get sort of, you know, the other gang get the hits in and whatever. And one thing that I mentioned to my mate when we were coming out of it was I liked the fact that he made so many mistakes, and I liked how many times that like Catwoman had to save him, or you know, he was kind of, he's not perfect at all. And I think we're so used to seeing that in a superhero film, where actually all these guys are just going to win every battle that they're in. He doesn't. Like he patches his way through most of the time, which is kind of what we expect. The other thing as well that I like just to mention still about the opening scene is how it sets up this idea of fear. They kind of do it a little bit in the Nolan ones, where like someone's trying to mug somebody and they look up and they see the bat symbol and he says, no, not tonight, I don't like tonight. But with this one, it was, you see the shadows and you see people looking into the shadows, and like we would do, you just go, is there anything there? Or is it not, you know? And like just by the fact that the bat symbol is out there, it's deterring the crime as well. And I really liked that.
The Nolan film just gave the vibe of, oh no, I don't fancy it. Whereas these guys looked terrified.
Yes.
They were so scared. They looked up and you could see them. Like that guy got hit by a car because he was so focused on the bat symbol.
Like it's one of them as well, where like I think that if you like, as you say, Nolan kind of like was very realistic in what he did, but I think that little touch of sort of the idea of like, you see the bat symbol, and even Batman says in his like monologue, he's like, I can't be everywhere, but they don't know where I am. It's like that idea of, well, I mean, he might be in that shadow, but he could be like the other side of the city. I don't know. Like,
but I'm not going to take that risk.
Like that
could be behind you.
Like that symbol's in the sky, so he's out and he's somewhere. And then your own mind, because that's how it works. If you're like a bit like when you're a kid or whatever, and you're scared in the house or you're scared of the dark, it's your own head thinking, what could this be?
I remember telling Adam on Film Files, I went to watch Alien, a film that I've seen 100 times. It's one of my favorite horror films and one of my top 10 films of all time. Seen it hundreds of times probably. And I went to see it in a cave, and there's all these little like divots and holes up above me. And I'm there thinking that the xenomorph is going to come out of one of them holes at me. So God knows what these criminals in Gotham are thinking, like around the shot. Like they must be bricking. I remember hearing something, an interview from Robert Pattinson before the fact, because there's lots of like goodwill towards him because he reads his comics, he knows his Batman, and he's fallen in love with this role. And he was saying that one thing he really worked on was that walk, that thud. I love it. That thudding.
Well, that's what I was just about to mention.
Like it's very reminiscent of The Man with No Name, and you can hear his spurs as he's walking along. Like, and you get those little Western motifs throughout this.
I said exactly the same thing when we walked, because Rach was like, I really like that. He was, when he walked as Batman, it was like doof, doof. And when he walked as Bruce Wayne, he was literally nothing. Like there was no sound, and I was like, that's a proper Western thing. Like that's what it is. Like that's what they've looked at, and that's like a proper. They've watched the idea of a Western film and like the sheriff or whatever it is, like coming to town, and like that idea of his feet being like the first thing you hear and the first thing you're like, oh no,
like because I kind of got it in my head. I don't know whether it's like the Arkham games that have done this, but like the idea that Batman is very ninjutsu, and there might be precedent for it in the comics. Like, and I'm guessing there is, that he is like, and this one is as well. He's good at sneaking up on people, but I get the feeling that this one, that's not what he's aiming to do. He's not aiming to sneak up on people. He's aiming to let them know that he's there,
Yeah.
So he doesn't want them. He's not going to like silently take out a guy, and he wants people to know because his first and foremost thing is fear is a weapon, and I'm going to use it against them. And he wants them to know exactly, like not exactly where he is, but he wants them to know he's in the room or in the building, and then he's going to pop out behind you and get you. And yeah, I was scared of this Batman. He was pretty terrifying.
So they kind of, they do the first riddle. It leads them to the literal thumb drive, where he needed the thumb to kind of unlock it, which I thought was a nice touch.
A little nitpick from the science teacher.
Oh, here we go.
I'm pretty sure that wouldn't work.
Oh, is this because of the sort of dead fingerprint type thing?
Because not the fingerprint itself, but like those thumbprint readers, as far as I'm aware, it's kind of biometric as well.
Right, okay.
So like it needs to be on someone's hand as they are alive. Like you can grab someone's hand and put it on there.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure they require heat from the hand to work properly. So unless the Riddler's put a little thermal heater in there as well.
I'm trying to find logic in a superhero film.
What if it was the fingerprint was made when he was dead? So it didn't have. So we got the pen drive, and it's like add your fingerprint, and he added the fingerprint when the finger was already severed.
I'm saying the scanner itself requires heat to work, not that it reads the heat at the time.
Oh, right, okay, right,
yeah,
okay.
That
makes sense.
But yeah, that is a nitpick because like how many films have done that? Like you cut someone's hand off to use it, or you cut someone's eyeball out to use it as on a retinal scanner or something daft like that. Like, and it made for a nice. Like I had to stifle a laugh at that point because it was like, but it was very rude, wasn't it? Like, do you get it? A thumb drive, eh?
Even Gordon was like, "Oh God."
Yeah.
What? Dad jokes.
Yeah. So what is wrong with this guy?
Like the main reason I love this film is like this is the first live action film really where we see Batman being a proper detective, and I know it focuses a lot on it's just him solving the riddles, but he is finding like forensic clues, and like because he can't do anything with it yet, he's kind of like I love that bit in the first crime scene where he is just walking to places, like kind of subtly hinting to the the crime scene investigators should probably look at that.
Yeah.
But it's just
doesn't he do that with something on the floor and no one's
there's a little blood splatter on the floor,
and then like one of the girls come over and she's kind of like
she starts taking pictures of it. Exactly.
I better take a picture of this.
Yeah,
better do my job.
They hadn't noticed that as well, and like I loved how uneasy the relationship was between the police and everyone. I wouldn't have minded knowing how it is that Gordon had come to know the Batman. Like like that seemed a bit like, oh, okay, they're just mates, but kind of uneasy mates. I don't know why.
The one thing that crept in my mind, and again, this is a massive nitpick, is that for all the stuff that it does, where it goes, this is a new Batman story. There's an awful lot where they kind of go, Batman, we don't need to do things like they never introduced Jim Gordon. That I'm fairly certain, unless I missed something, that no one says Jim Gordon's name until very much later on into the film.
The original commissioner says Gordon, and he might call him Jim briefly at the beginning.
But I feel like there's a lot of that where it's like, this stuff, so we're going to kind of gloss over it a little bit.
I think that's like a good I understand what you're saying with like a nitpick, but I think that's a good thing to be like, we're not going over old ground.
Yeah, no, totally. Because like we said this earlier on about Spider-Man, about how with the Tom Holland ones, we're glad that we didn't get the Uncle Ben thing again.
Yeah.
So it is a nitpick. It is 100% a nitpick. Yeah.
It's one of them where it's like they probably thought this film's 3 hours long. We don't need to add another 50.
Let's just delete all the stuff at the beginning where he goes,
we don't have to don't have to add another 15 minutes introducing Jim Gordon, how they're mates, all that stuff. It's Batman. We get it. It's Batman. Like if you don't know what the idea of what's happened with Batman and being mates with Jim Gordon yet, then you should probably go back and watch a different film.
You probably wouldn't be sat in that cinema, to be honest. Then,
you know what I mean? Like, but you can pick up even because that's the idea. I think even if you didn't know that was Jim Gordon and you didn't know that like they were mates and whatever, the film is just if you're just watching it as a film, not as like a Batman fan or whatever it is, you can just be like, okay, well, he's mates with someone in the police.
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't have to delve any deeper than that. Like, that's it. But obviously, a Batman fan, you know what I mean?
So I liked the introduction of the Iceberg Lounge and Oz. Actually, before that,
you get Jim Gordon accidentally screwing over the dead mayor with the thumb drive.
He sent all these emails to all these people.
Yeah.
If I was the Riddler, I would 100 with his kind of motive, especially. That is 100% something I'd do. And I wish we kind of part of me wishes we kind of got a bit of backtrack from that of Jim catching a lot of heat for sending these kind of incriminating photos to every single press officer in the city. And that was a great way to tie it into the Iceberg Lounge. And
it was. So I mean, the knock on the door and the twins and all that kind of stuff. I thought the twins were a nice touch. I remember when they were cast, I assumed they were going to be the Abramovich twins. Then they didn't end up doing that. But it was the red hue and the red light that comes through. I just thought red and Batman, I'd never put those two colors, those two things together, but it fits really nicely. Yeah.
And yet, my God.
Well, I think because he's the tone set with all the the kind of branding and the posters and all that idea of Batman and red, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's kind of that sort of because even the city that they sort of built was very different to any other.
It was very grungy, weren't it? I thought I liked the look of it in that it looked dirty in parts, but then you could tell parts were kind of the poshest. One thing that kind of took me out instantly, but I'm glad they showed it so quickly. I was like, Gotham Square Garden? All right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing I loved about this film in its entirety as well. I guess it is a nitpick with The Dark Knight, but you are very aware when you're watching it, it's basically just Chicago.
Oh yeah, it's such a clean city.
Yeah. It's appeared in and especially off the back of Batman Begins, that really seemed to put a lot of effort into making Gotham look like this weird hodgepodge kind of old school
and then Nolan goes
looking city.
If you want me doing a sequel, I'm getting rid of those bloody train tracks running through the thing.
That major plot point in the previous film, and that was such a shame because I thought that Gotham had such an identity, and then it just for that to get scrapped in this film, and for it to end up as this very clean, like you said, very clean looking city. It's just whereas this one, that opening shot with all of the screens, and it's meant to pay homage to New York, I guess, but it definitely isn't New York. And they clearly just they shot a lot of different cities in order to get all of their different shots. And they went to Liverpool. I remember thinking, because I saw a meme before it, that Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at himself in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I just remember the caption of that being Scousers watching the Batman when there's certain shots I know that bit. I've been there. I thought, Ty's probably doing that for art. And you said
jumping off, was it the Liver building? I was
Rich was kind of when we seen obviously the the columns and stuff like that, and she leans over and was like, that looks familiar. And I was like, yeah. And then it kind of twigged and I was like, oh God, yeah, it does, yeah.
It's over the road.
They hadn't obviously they changed stuff around it, but I thought they would have changed more. I don't know why. I just thought they would have added different things.
Liverpool has got a lot of stuff that would fit in Gotham. It's this very modern city, but you've got a lot of listed buildings and very old school architecture that would fit straight in. And
I've still been trying to find out if Robert Pattinson was actually on top of the Liver building as well.
I think he was.
I haven't been able to find out if it was him or he just green screens or whatever, or and then when he think he's off. Because I know somebody did jump off it, obviously not him. But it was I still don't, I haven't confirmed it for myself, which is what I want to do today. Just to be that's pretty cool.
But I mean, the true question is, which will use his Liverpool better, Batman or Captain America: The First Avenger, when he submerges at Albert Dock?
Well, I went to see him do that in Liverpool in the Albert Dock, so maybe that one for me. because
okay.
I was there, like when he did it, and he was behind the big boulder.
Yeah.
I seen him do that, like
with Big Chris punching Richard Armitage repeatedly in the face.
Yeah. As
here we go.
His flesh-coloured socks that he was wearing, and just running around. Yeah, man.
So like Iceberg Lounge, introduction to Penguin. We then get Selena Kyle. Go on.
Did you just gloss over the best actor in this role there, in this film there?
Well, I have a bit of a low-key kind of one that I'm going to pip for best actor, but we'll get to them in a little bit. He is great though.
Oh my God. Georgia refused to believe it was Colin Farrell.
I mean, I was sat next to my friend, right, and he has no idea about actors and things like that, and I was like, I can't believe that's Colin Farrell, and he kind of went, huh. I still don't think he knows who that is, you know, but yeah, just what?
Yeah, like the makeup is great, his accent is great, his characterization is great. It's such a good realization.
I actually character. Now, and we'll get to the end of it later. I am looking forward to seeing more of him, and I'm glad that they've kind of not had him have such a big role in this that you then get bored of him.
Yeah, it's like the subtle introduction of a secondary villain to be like, he's not just one villain. Like these other people. Like,
it's the rogues gallery, isn't it?
Yeah, these people can't take over and people don't do stuff, but like he's not going to come in to be a major player until it's his time to become a major player.
Yeah,
and you get that a little bit at the end, don't you?
Yeah.
And I've always said, like, I like, and again, Ty, because you are the comic expert, I know that some of the like the Batman animated series flirted with this idea a little bit, that Penguin was very much a villain, but he was also occasionally like Batman's underground contact. Like if other stuff was going on that was dangerous, like the Penguin never went for the dangerous, like life-threatening. So he was like, he's just an organized crime boss. He's not much different from your Falcones and your Maronis. And like he was almost occasionally like a contact for the Batman. The Batman would have to intimidate him a bit, but he'd be like, well, you know, these guys are messing up my operation. So you got to sort them out.
There feels a lot of that like in the game as well. But in the comics, there's that idea where he's like, he is a bad guy and he does do bad things, but he's not like a mass murderer. Like he's not like, he's not a psychopath. He just wants money and he wants to do his thing. And like if Batman leans on him hard enough, they'll give him up. Like it's all good.
I think the games do it well because he gets a bit too big for his boots in the games.
Yeah,
like he's all this kind of like, I'm gonna get you, and then as soon as Batman grips him, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll do this, I'll do it. Yeah. So there's that kind of duality.
If he wasn't a penguin, he'd be a proper little weasel, wouldn't he?
He'd be a pigeon with wings, would he not?
He would be. He'd be a pigeon with wings, yeah. But yeah, I think that the idea, I don't think they've really, again, like in other films, they haven't really done that where they've made sort of a secondary character feel important enough to be like, oh, he is going to be something or he is something, but not like blossom into the main bad guy as they did with the Penguin. I think they did it so well to be like, so if they picked up a second film and he was the main bad guy, he's already been introduced, you know what he looks like, you know what his kind of game is, so it's like, okay, we can get right into it now, like we can do this because if you've seen the first one, like you already know of the Penguin, you know that he was around Falcone, you know all this stuff, so let's just get into it. Let's not
even that thing of going, I'm Oz, like don't call him Oswald Cobblepot, you know, because I am going to pick myself up on a mistake there. Obviously, it's not a pigeon with wings; it's a rat with wings.
Oh yeah,
because as soon as he said rat with wings, I was like, that's a pigeon. So I like all that kind of the introduction to Selena Kyle then, where he follows her back to her apartment. Batman follows her back to her apartment to see that she's kind of friends or in some kind of relationship with this Annika woman who is pictured in the... Go on.
Apparently Zoe Kravitz, just to quickly bounce on that, Zoe Kravitz read that as they were in a relationship.
Yeah. Which I think is fair.
They're like, she's like Selena Kyle's bisexual in the thing.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, if you look at the character, she does like, she just seemed that way, like she could easily fall in love with anyone.
But that was always Catwoman, I think.
Yeah.
I think Catwoman was always that kind of sultry, because there was a couple of guys sat near us that when every time Batman and Catwoman kissed, they were all like, "Oh, why are they putting that in? Why are they putting?" And I was like, "But that is how it always was in the comic books, in the Arkham games, even going back to like Michelle Pfeiffer. It was always that kind of sexual tension that isn't going to go away, and you know, Catwoman is going to be the more forceful one with it." But then I fully believed that a young and naive Batman was like, "Oh, this girl's just kissed me. Let's go follow her." Yeah.
I did think. I mean, I might be jumping forward a bit here. Maybe I'm a bit disappointed.
Fine, we're all over the place anyway.
The first time she does that, I kind of turned to George because Georgia rolled her eyes, and I get why people would be doing it because I don't think they had that much chemistry in this film up until they like later on maybe. But like at that point with the first kiss, I was thinking she's gonna honeypot him here. Like she's playing him a little bit because that's also very Catwoman. That's I'm gonna use my wiles to get him on my side because he's clearly just this awkward guy who doesn't know how to act around a gorgeous woman. And like I thought there was gonna be some element of honeypotting, and there wasn't, and I was a little bit disappointed with that. But
yeah, I know what you mean, because I thought as well, there was a point where I think before they were looking for the rat, before they realised that it was a rat, I thought, I wonder if she's kind of going to do him over here. Yeah. Which I suppose is good, and is credit to Zoe Kravitz's performance that we're reading it in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And that it's not kind of, you know, black and white.
It's very creepy watching Batman. I know he wasn't being, well, he was, but he wasn't.
It's a bit voyeuristic.
It was very like, oh, I'm going to watch this woman get changed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but he's like a weird recluse. Even like when she kisses him, he doesn't really know what to do, which is kind of like that idea. Like that. He's kind of been hidden away that long that he probably
a
hasn't.
15-year-old boy going through puberty. Yeah. I don't know what's going on here.
He hasn't really been out and about kissing girls. So when
his Batman voice keeps breaking every time he talks.
Yeah. So that idea of like and being a little bit like, oh god, this girl's doing things is and her being like, Catwoman, I'll do what I want, and as long as like I get what I want out of it, it's all good. And they're kind of like hiding behind that idea of I'm wearing a mask, so it's not Selena doing this.
Yeah.
I felt a bit like that when she was Catwoman, like which I did like. I mean,
and she's got a thing for strays, you know, all that kind of.
That
stuff.
was quite for this film as well. I did wonder if they were going to do the Marvel thing of getting a funny line in there, like you've got a lot of cats, and I have a thing for strays.
Yeah.
That was genuinely funny, well done. Like to get like a quippy kind of like Marvel-esque line in there, like that was difficult, and they pulled it off.
What did you like? Obviously, Catwoman's. It's hard to kind of say who's the best, but like, was she like? Was you like? Yeah,
I liked her. Yeah.
So I really liked her. Yeah.
I think, if I'm honest, I prefer her to Anne Hathaway.
Yes.
Anne Hathaway was such a strange casting, I'll be honest.
I mean, but as much as I think it's a good performance, isn't it? But again, it's Nolan trying to ground Catwoman, and he's doing it as she's a cat burglar. We're not going to really refer to her as a Catwoman. I mean, I know that this film doesn't either, but I liked that this had the incorporation of the cat burglar stuff where she's breaking into the safe, but then even bringing in the sort of the whip and her actually getting quite physical as well in that kind of nimble cat way, where Anne Hathaway was very much kind of like fisticuffs, let's go.
Yeah. She was
does anybody else notice that like she seems to put a lot of effort and time and money into a suit and then just cut up a balaclava for a hat? Like it was like it was all sleek and nice and everything matched.
I just read that as like it could have either been like a biker suit, you know, like just biker leathers almost, or that it's an outfit that she's had to buy for her hostessing job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it almost looked like, because even with her having a whip, why the hell does she have a whip? Well, maybe she's like, maybe not to raise the age of this podcast from like U to PG, or maybe even dare I say a 12A, but maybe she's had to do some work as a dominatrix, and that would be the kind of outfit you wear for that. And it could have been something that was bought for her by, you know,
Yes,
a client
potentially.
with a king. And I did actually quite like that she didn't have some stupidly into like Anne Hathaway's was a bit forced. It's like, oh, I'm gonna have an eye mask on, and when I put my goggles up, it's gonna look like cat ears. This one was just.
I did like. To be fair, the thing I liked about it was that from the back, the way it was
the cat
cut,
ears. Yeah.
The little like it was like cut that way. But
I've cut a balaclava up, and it's got these little cat ears on the edges.
Just the way it's cut. Yeah.
The shot that I did like when they kiss, it almost turns into that traditional silhouette of Batman and Catwoman. Yeah. And I really liked that shot. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like that's one of the variant covers of the Cat and the Bat, and that's what she says towards the end.
Yeah.
So I think they made like 5 or 6 variant covers, and I swear to God, when they're like kind of kissing, that is like so close. Even the colours in the background and everything, like it's mad. It was really well done that little bit, like. So yeah.
So through this, we're kind of getting now the link between Riddler's victims. So he goes from the mayor, he goes to then the commissioner, which, if I'm honest, for the kind of entrance that the commissioner had, I thought we would have seen that death play out a little bit more rather than
I thought that
he's dead. This happened. Let's move on.
Maybe it was that strikes me as maybe something that had to get left on the editing room floor.
Maybe, yeah.
Like I bet there is a deleted scene where they show a bit more of that, because that did feel a little bit ripped from Dark Knight. Let's have Paul Dano's directorial debut of this, which I will say, nowhere near as scary as Heath Ledger's. Like that Brian Douglas, look at me, like that's. Like the newscasters in these Batman films are repeatedly telling me the images you're about to see or the things you're about to hear may be very disturbing. That Joker video is still the only one where I'm like, no, no, thank you.
So then we end up so she's going through the Iceberg Lounge with Batman's contact lens in,
and he's saying 44, the club within the club.
Yeah. And he's saying, you know, look at people so I can get IDs and all that kind of stuff.
Georgia loved that scene.
I liked that. I thought that was good.
Because it was a nice little motif of this is how these girls feel when they're going out and about. And yes, in these circumstances, the girls are kind of there to do that. But you can question, is that okay?
But then the last thing that she wants to do is maintain eye contact with somebody.
Yeah, and it just ends up so uncomfortable because
even like the fans are allowed to keep eye contact here. Like, so you've got to keep looking at them because it's like they're not looking.
It's got to register and
they're not looking at your face. Like that's not. So it's going to take a minute because they're not.
Well, he says that, doesn't he? He's like, these guys don't really like eye contact, do they?
Yeah. And it's like I took from that like how uncomfortable it must be when a girl like walks through a club like that, and it's kind of like that's not the best, is it?
But this film made me really aware of as well of how many scenes. I think it was more like Selena and Annika earlier on, but also this one in the club. Like how many, like with proper directing and big budget filmmaking, how many like genuine conversations of like that could make it into other films are just like silent. Like her and Annika having that conversation in her apartment. You could probably imagine like a fully blown scene of that happening. You don't hear a single thing they're saying. And like there's loads of conversations like that going on in this club. And you're like, like you've no idea what's going on. But these are just fully fleshed out scenarios. Like this guy has thought of everything and just
it's like made it of like a real club and a real city and a real like there's a lot of like things around that aren't like they're just happening. Like
there's the story that we're focusing on, and then there's other stories that are happening at the same time.
I think that was a good thing about it. Like
the whole seedy Gil Coulson thing, where he's like, you know, it's the district attorney. What's he doing in a place like this? And then he ends up with a collar bottom wrapped around his neck, which my friend said as we came out of it. So my mate's initial reactions were he felt there was something missing from the whole film. And we got into a conversation about how I think for him, he's a big fan of the Marvel films, as am I, as you can see behind and all that kind of stuff. But pacing wise, the Marvel films tend to go, here's a big set piece, here's a comedy bit, Here's a big set piece. They don't let you think too much. Whereas this was very much, we're going to take our time with it. We're going to do the detective story. We're going to make you think about it. Now, he said, though, as well, it's not that he didn't like it because he was fully engrossed in everything. And his favourite bit was this next scene that we're going to talk about, where Coulson emerges from the car after it's crashed into the town hall and ruined the mayor's funeral. And to get out of it, they're having to solve riddles right there and then to get the combination. And
I'd have liked a bit more of that.
Yeah, he said he was all for that. And I said, same with me, because again, with the Riddler, I like the idea that we're giving time to solve stuff, but then as well, Batman is obviously doing his job as quickly as he can do. One person I've glossed over just for a second that I want to come back to is sort of low-key my favorite performance.
I know what you mean.
John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. Like,
where has this performance come from? Like, John Turturro is a comedy actor.
Yeah. He's a comedy. Jesus likes the bowling, right? Yeah. But then as well, like all the stuff I've seen him in recently, he's become like a masquerade, kind of, a charade of himself in like things like Transformers, right? And then this, I was like, you absolute slimy sleazeball, but I believe everything that you're saying.
He was unbelievable in this. Because I remember, like, wasn't it Tom Wilkinson who played him in Batman Begins?
Yeah.
And that was a bit, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Like, don't cast an Italian American actor, I guess, even though there's several people who could really well fill that role. Like, okay, just cast a British guy with an awkward accent at that point.
But I believed everything. And again, possibly jumping forward there. So the reveal that he is Selina's neglectful father.
Yeah.
I believe that. I can 100% believe that at one point he slept with somebody else who works in that club and then impregnated them and had a kid. But then again, fast forward a little bit, when Selina goes to him towards the end of the film and he's like, oh, beautiful, of course I've got time for you. Again, I'm like, you're about 70 at this point, and all you're thinking about, you're not using your brain up here, you're using that thing down there. And I was like, you absolute sleazeball, but I completely believed it.
I loved his interaction with Bruce as they're going into the funeral. That was incredible.
I'm just going to remind you about the fact that your dad operated on me on your dining room table.
Yeah. And that set the scene for something I'll talk about a bit later as well that I really like, because we've not actually seen it in a live action. But I don't know about, there's one piece of media, like outside of comics, that has dealt with what I like. Another thing I really liked about this film, but we'll get there when we get there. But that interaction there, and then Bruce's little, what does that tell you about your dad? It tells me he took the Hippocratic Oath seriously. And even Falcone was like, that's pretty good.
Yeah. But that whole scene with the collar bomb, sort of, leaving Gil till later on in the night so that they can get the bomb squad in and all try and deal with it. And then Batman just emerges from the shadows and he's trying to get everything out of him. Really enjoyed that.
I think it was like, just to go back, I think it was interesting that like Bruce Wayne kind of forgot who he was for a minute and got the kid out the way. But no one even noticed it. Like no one even got onto it. Yeah. And he was kind of like, that was happening and he was like, okay, that kid's not.
I'm glad you've just mentioned that so that I don't forget this.
Yeah.
This idea that Batman's being haunted by sort of almost visions of himself in kids that are potentially going to be orphaned. So with the mayor's kid, and then towards the end of the film with the new mayor and Lex kid, like, he's just seen himself, isn't he, in all of this? Yeah.
Because even if you go back a little bit, because
I thought that was the mayor's kid. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Maybe I
because they were at her thing to show solidarity.
Right, I read it.
If you go back a little bit, when he put the eye, the contact in the thing, and then when he has that like little interaction with Alfred, where he's like, "You're not my father," like kind of thing, and he walks away, and then Alfred is kind of watching the video, and it ends with obviously him spending a lot of time looking at this little kid, and Alfred's kind of like.
Alfred clocks it, doesn't he?
Yeah, Alfred clocks it and wants to cry because Andy Serkis is a beautiful.
But again, Andy Serkis telling the audience that he's clocked it through his facial expression. He doesn't even have to say anything.
Yeah.
That's it, because he just kind of looks and he's like, okay.
And we're
Like,
just
I can
like, oh yeah,
understand
he
why
knows.
okay,
Yeah.
you know what I
Oh.
mean? And that's kind of like
Show, don't tell. Show,
Yeah.
don't tell.
He's almost over the top with it, and I don't mean that as a criticism. I mean in terms of if you compare how you get emotion across on stage versus how you get it across on film, it is very different. And I think Andy Serkis, in everything he does, he is very stage actor. So I think it would be easy or unfair, but I think it would be easy to level the criticism against him that he's overacting, because compared to a lot of these other like veteran Hollywood actors, they probably just look bored a lot of the time, and you read into it that they're being pensive, they're being thoughtful, they're being brooding. Whereas Andy Serkis has separate faces for all of those things, because that's how you do it in theatre. And that seemed like a very stage thing and I love it. Like that's why I like
think that
quite
was
a unique
like
actor in that group.
it was a very like different Alfred, like to any other. I mean, the closest I would say possibly would be if any of you seen Gotham. The TV show.
Sean Pertwee.
It's not the same because obviously he's a kid, but it's that kind of idea of like he's got this. He's done stuff in the past that was like we don't really talk about, but it's helping you. But
you definitely get the vibe of which a couple of them. I think Alfred's standalone series did this as well. I'm not sure, but you get the vibe that Alfred and Thomas Wayne were like war buddies. And that like you know, because Alfred is meant to be like an old war guy, and like he does like field dressings for Bruce. Because George has said that it's like, how does Batman go to hospital? Like, what's he doing? Alfred does a lot of it. He's a really skilled field surgeon and stuff like that.
But I think that's it. It's like Michael Caine as Alfred is a very different Alfred. Like it's not.
And same with like and Michael Gough as well in the 89 to.
So they're like very, very like the older, but the very like just more the father figure rather than the I'm trying to teach you. They kind of like, all right, I know you're gonna do this stuff, so go ahead, whatever. You know what I mean? Whereas this one kind of is a bit like, come on, like like I understand that you're doing this, but you've still got to be like a Wayne, like you've still got to be a Wayne, and I think that's a nice like thing that's never really been explored properly.
Because I know that like in Rises, there's obviously that big scene where Michael Caine's Alfred just says, I'm not going to do it anymore. And it's quite an emotional scene and stuff. But that is because it feels like Bruce Wayne's kind of last clinging family hope is leaving. Whereas I feel like with these ones, like you're saying with Andy Serkis, he is going to, no, you've still got a duty to fulfill. And he's going to give him some back. He's going to give him as good as he gets it. But I feel like when you get an older Alfred, they become a little bit more passive. And they come a little bit more like, I'm here to care for you. Whereas this one is like, no, this is the way that it needs to be. You need to get this sorted and we can go and do this instead.
I think that's the thing though, because even like at the start of it, Batman, you could tell he'd be like, if like Alfred was like, yeah, I'm leaving. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not letting you kill yourself. Batman would be like, go ahead. Like,
especially with this Batman, because this Batman, more than any other that we've seen, really gives off a vibe of mental illness, which it probably should.
It's that Batman, depressive nature, isn't it?
It's that obsession. It's the manicism behind it. It's the lack of general care towards his own health and his own mental well-being. And it is that kind of like, because I know plenty of media have dealt with it in the past, the idea that Batman is no different really from his rogues gallery. Like there's an argument that he willingly puts people in danger so that he himself can save them. And I know that plenty of things have dealt with that. And I can imagine a sequel film where maybe it'd be annoying if you've got a villain where the whole point is that the villain is trying to hammer that home. But I would love to see this Batman reconcile that, because
I think that's what you're saying is kind of like it showed. I kind of skipped to the end of the film here a little bit, but like the idea of the reason all these bad guys and rogues galleries come about is because he's this vigilante. So he's the extreme, and then instead of thinking, well, he's thought, I need to clean this city and I'm going to do this, and they've all thought, hang on, some dude's running around in a batsuit, I'm going to get myself a costume and do what the hell I want, like, because I'm extreme. And then it kind of shows it because the guy right at the end, when he's like, who are you? I'm vengeance. It's like he's caused all this. Like, if you go all the way back to the start of the film when he's like, I'm vengeance, then it's like you've got the same person saying, oh no, I'm vengeance.
Well,
like,
I couldn't work out if he was meant to be that guy who said that. I couldn't work out if he was
I
meant
assumed
to be
it was
one of the thugs at the beginning, or that guy mumbling to himself in the courthouse.
Yeah, I thought it was the guy in the courthouse.
Oh, I thought it was the guy who was punching in the face, like the first guy, and he was like, "Who are you meant to be?" And he was like, "Vengeance."
No, because I assumed that it was the guy who he had a bit of an interaction with in the courthouse,
and he clearly had a gripe with.
Don't know. Somebody else is going to go and see this film about 3 times and figure that out, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, where are we up to now? So I mean, there's a lot of I liked the shadow of Sal Maroni, in that they kept mentioning this drugs bust and how he was this thing, and it opens that world up a little bit, doesn't it? Right. So go on.
Because we were at the bomb disposal scene, and that was something that annoyed Georgia, actually.
Why?
How do you not have a scratch on him? He was next to a bomb. The bomb went off in his face. And the next bit is then he wakes up with the police around him, and one of them tries to take his mask off.
Who's this? I mean, I don't think there was any bad acting in it, right? But who's this actor who was the chief of police? Who's like, hey, Batman,
that is his voice. It's
I'm sure I've heard it before.
He's in Chernobyl. He's in Chernobyl.
Right.
He was another person.
I noticed that actually a lot. Yeah. So there's 3 people, one of which we'll talk about at the end. So the commissioner, what's his name? I had it here. Burns. He was also an abusive boyfriend in EastEnders, and he's the best.
Oh,
actor
that's Trevor.
I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Trevor.
Yeah.
So, and he was the miner in Chernobyl.
Yeah,
you know the one who just wouldn't.
You know that Con O'Neill. That Con O'Neill. Is he Scouse?
He might be.
Because I'm sure he's.
I'm going on IMDb.
He's 100% Northern.
Because I thought he was a McCann at first. No, like
it says he was born in Somerset.
English actor, Somerset.
Yeah, I thought he was, one of the McCanns, because obviously they're like brothers. I think one of them is in Call the Midwife, and one of them was in like The Upper Hand years ago, if anyone remembers that. And he was the Scouser in Ali Enfield. There's like 3 brothers. I thought he was one of them first.
Well, that is actually his voice as well, because I remember hearing that in Chernobyl. And
I've seen him in.
Yeah,
if this had been the first time I heard his voice, I probably would have laughed, because it is very like, I'm putting on a voice like this to try and sound like a tough guy. No, that's his actual voice. He's putting on an American accent.
Yeah.
But that's his voice.
It was in Happy Valley and Ordinary Lies. Yeah, I've seen him in stuff before. That's what. So anyway, but I quite liked that scene where they were all like, let's try and pull his mask off, and he just.
I genuinely like that Batman was thinking, I'm gonna punch all 50 people in this room with me. Yeah. Let's have them right now. Like,
do you know what I liked as well was that when he started fighting, like he starts fighting and it stopped, and he starts scuffling again. And the first thing he knew to do was goes back to a wall, so no one could come at him. I was like, so cool. Yeah, such a little tiny thing where he was like, I'm putting me back to the wall, so no one could come at me at the back again.
There were a couple of people in my screening that started laughing when Gordon gets really close to him and just goes, "We gotta get you out of here. We gotta,
I proper like that scene. Like,
that was great.
Like I was, and he was talking, and he was like looking, and
it's like, who's the mustache?
Yeah. And then weirdly, he ran away, and then every single cop ran after him.
I liked that though. I was all for like Batman running down the corridor.
There is no way
going out.
There's no way though that those police open fire on him in the stairwell, because they're like, there's police dotted all up the stairwell, so that they're not going to shoot in their mate. I'm sorry.
That scene has anyone seen Blues Brothers? Like when these like every single cop and or these like
all the cars crash.
Yeah, like at the end when they're going up to get give the money to sort out like the church or whatever, and like these like every single cop running, and they're like and the army and everything. And then they all stop and it's like, you seen 2 dudes in 2 suits? And he's like, yeah, they went that way. Thanks. Like everybody's running the same direction. I was like, that's funny. Like just because I've seen the film so many times. Like, but yeah.
No, I enjoyed that. So let's do the Batmobile then.
Okay.
You skipped over. Did you
Go
like
on.
his squirrel suit? Because I get why they did
Oh
it.
yeah, the kind of like let's go.
Yeah.
I get why they did it because they're going for something a little bit more grounded, but that looked stupid.
It looked stupid,
Yeah.
and he failed massively.
Like I get what.
Do you
it's just
think?
like,
Go on.
sorry.
Sorry. No, go
You
on.
go, Ty.
Sorry.
All right,
I was going to say.
it's just...
Now go on. So
right. So like, because I know that Chris Nolan goes to the lengths to show why his cape is used for gliding. He's got those little bat fingers on there, which like I don't know if he uses that, but fair enough. But I don't remember caring that Ben Affleck's cape, that clearly isn't meant to be used for gliding because it's like a leathery cape, he uses it for gliding. Like that's just par for the course with Batman, as far as I'm concerned. Like,
so you would have forgiven if he jumped off and kind of wings out.
If he just had his cape ready.
Yeah. Nolan, what was it? Something like
So he had like the little extendable finger thing, and then when he flicks it, they all come out like that.
Yeah,
so that's what gets
it was like it makes it rigid, doesn't it? If he sends a certain
was it like electric current in it? Like
because honestly, that is the whole point of him having a cape anyway. Like if the cape doesn't do that, then it's just a hindrance in combat, which it does become later in the film. Like there's a point where the cape is a flaw in his costume, whereas like everything about, especially this Batman, his costume is quite utilitarian.
Yeah.
It's not because Ty said before, it is a bit hodgepodge together. Not everything is custom made. He has kind of cobbled it together. So the only reason he should have a cape anyway is for it to be useful. And maybe you argue that it's a psychological thing, the way he presents himself to his victims. But they are, at the end of the day, they're drug addicts who are just trying to earn a living the only way they can in a corrupt city. And you've got some Tory coming and beating the hell out of them instead of paying taxes to help them. He's a Tory. Screw Batman.
It's just Saturday. Just trying to sell drops to kids, for God's sake. Well,
exactly. But I would not have minded him using the cape and he could have still failed it because he's not tried it before. Like you could have had it like that. Like I don't know. The squirrel shoot looked a bit dumb.
Do you think they've done that to be like that was the first time he started jumping off a building there? Like he's like that, and then the next film, it's like there'll be a little scene where it's like Alfred's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Yeah, that glider suit didn't work."
I tried using a parachute and I got absolutely ragdolled off a bridge, a bus, and a set of bins.
Yeah, that's it. So maybe it's like that little thing to be like the next time you see him in like the next film, and he's like got that cape or he's got something that works. It's like, well, that worked better than the last one. Do you know what I mean? Like a little nod to be like, I'm trying these new things and I've got to do something, but that obviously didn't work because it's not the best in a city with like buses and that. But,
so if we do the Batmobile then, right now, it's great and it looks good. I was very surprised that they had him stall it.
I thought that was a psych play. I thought it was just like he built up the noise, and then like that.
Oh, right, okay. I read it as like,
because he wasn't interested in the cops, like with the other people. He was interested in the Penguin because at that point he's worked out it's Penguin who's the rat, and he's got Maroni's drug operation going and he was just interested in him, so he wanted to separate him away from these other people who could shoot him and hurt him. And I thought that was just to make Oswald drive away and spin away, and then maybe give Selena a chance to get out alive as well with the money.
I sort of seen it as a stall. I'll be honest, like
I thought like
he stood on his cape. Oh, fuck. God damn.
Alfred, I've got to take it off before I get in.
I remember, like, as soon as that noise starts, I was so hyped. Yay.
It's just like an entrance, isn't it?
It was. Like, I can imagine that there was some WWE entrances that car entrance put to shame, frankly. Like,
it's weird because it's like the car is always like an extension of the character. So the car's always a big thing. Like every film has had their car or tank or whatever. Even the game have had like
Mm.
that introduction of this is the next level of Batman, and that one didn't disappoint at all. Like
At all. Oh my god.
I think that was the best of all of them. Maybe the original Batman when he stops it right in front of him. That was quite good. But
yeah.
and it stops like that far away from him, and he's like, get in. Like, but
I love the story behind that as well. That because of Michael Keaton's outfit, he needed to be hoisted in and out of that car. You never saw him just getting into it.
Yeah.
And that reminded me of something with this as well. Like Robert Battenbat could move his neck around freely, couldn't he?
Yeah.
But he looked like he did. He chose not to a lot of the time.
There was a point where he turns to, I think, one of the cats on the counter and seeing this thingy, and he sort of moves his whole body to turn to it.
But that
It's not the 80s anymore. You're all right.
But that felt like an active choice, because that, like, with Michael Keaton's Batman, that limitation like does become a massive positive, because it makes him look a bit less than human. It does make him look a bit more monstrous.
Well, again, if we're going down the naive route, maybe it is that he's feeling that he can't have full movement and he's just doing it to overcompensate for what it is that he's wearing.
Yeah, you could read it as that as well. But I know that Robert Pattinson thought very carefully about his movement, so he will have had a reason for all the movements that he did, and like that kind of turning his whole body thing. It don't like, and he is a Batman fan, so it probably, for slightly at least, does harken back to Keaton and those older Batmans where the neck was like fixed to the body. Like that.
Like, I mean, his suit was more about, obviously, like, I keep mentioning his suit, but like, I feel like his suit was more just the chest plate and the head. That was what he was like. I've got this.
Because the rest of it was like cargo pants, big
boots.
Yeah,
like I've got this.
You could imagine a soldier wearing the rest of it.
Yeah. Even like the
tactical
mask,
gear almost.
Like you could see it was like on the nose of being like sewn in or thingied in. So it was like it wasn't perfect. Whereas all the other Batmans, it's like a proper mold of it.
Sculpted,
like,
solid
one piece onesie.
Yeah. Like I don't think that's what it was. Like even the chest wasn't necessarily like I'm gonna look like I've got muscles or I've got this. It was clearly like a bulletproof vest. I'd like thingy together, and then obviously with the Batman thing in the middle. Which is the first time that's been a thing where
I've seen. I liked that as he put it back in, and
they didn't address it at all. Do either of you two buy into that theory that it's
it was the gun?
That it's the gun that killed his parents?
Yeah, apparently so, but I couldn't really see how.
So the end bits, if you imagine it as a revolver, the end bits are like almost going into the handle, and then towards the middle is near where the front of the gun would be.
There might be something in that, you know. But
I hope he's got this whole thing of like no guns, and then his last film with like probably the Joker or whatever, and he just takes it out, puts it together as a gun and shoots him. Like,
I'm retired. Go get my pension.
Just like snaps it back into a gun.
Well, that's what makes Bruce Wayne retire in Batman Beyond in the first episode. He gets chest pains, he's nearly having a heart attack, and the only way he can overpower a thug is picking up a gun and pointing it at him.
Yeah. That's it.
And then at that night, he literally hangs up his batsuit, says never again, turns the lights off, a flashback to history. But the actual car chase.
Oh yeah.
The actual car chase. Like, because I mean, I don't know if Ty will have thought this at all. Like, I remember being hyped for this from the trailers and from word of mouth on Twitter and social media in general. And oh my God, it did not disappoint. Matt Reeves knows how to shoot a car chase. Like, what the hell? Oh my God, that was.
I think that, do you know what though? All of the vehicles, like all of the when they're driving and when every part of it, even when they're on the bikes, is shot so different to any other, like any other like film that I've seen.
Yeah. A lot of other films would have like tracking shots of all the action, and Nolan did really well with, especially in Dark Knight, the chase, like the big chase in the middle of Dark Knight, which I think is the best part of Dark Knight. Other than like, unless you want to go a bit more like acting scene and you go with the interrogation scene or something like that. But in terms of an action set piece, that's one of the best in any film, let alone Dark Knight, which is one of the best films out there. But that had a lot of, we're going to track all the action. This one was very much the cameras are going to be mounted somewhere on the two vehicles in question, and those are the only viewpoints you are getting. And like, we're going to actually make it hard for, like, we're going to make it so that it would have been hard for you to see it in tracking shots, because we're going to have it absolutely Hollywood raining to the point where we're just pouring buckets of water over these people. And just by having quite static cameras, but the action happening around the cameras, that was so frenetic. And it is just this quite unique car chase that we do not get a lot of.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, it was one of them car chases where it showed everything and showed nothing.
Yeah.
So you didn't.
It was quite small as well. Like, there's only two vehicles involved in this chase.
Yeah.
It's not a big because that's one thing to. Maybe he was going as far away from Nolan's scene as he could, because he's thinking, we're not going to top that. But we're not. Well, maybe not. We're not going to top it, but we're not going to try and replicate that. Nolan did that, and he did it as well as you could possibly do it. Even if we've got like better effects available to us today, whether they be CGI or practical. So we're going to do something We're going to do. These are two cars, very much like a Bullet, which is still heralded as one of the best car chases ever. With Steve McQueen and that. Two vehicles just at each other, and because we've not got martial law. They've not got an empty city to traverse this through. This is a traffic jam in the rain, and all the other drivers are driving slowly. And oh my god!
I suppose the difficulty is with something like this, and then like I suppose with Spider-Man as well, is that there's been so many incarnations and versions of it now that you've got to look back to what came before to make sure that you're not just absent-mindedly copying what's been before. But no, I really enjoyed it, and then I think the kind of, I don't know if it was a surprise that it happened, but with the riddle being delivered to Wayne Manor and Alfred reading it, and the whole fireproof envelope and stuff.
The way it was like he was phoning him and it had already happened. Like, that was so clever, because I was like, why is he not picking up the phone? Like, what?
Yeah, why is he ignoring the phone ringing?
He's a frigging butler. What's he doing? Like,
that's very not okay, Alfred. Yeah, put your crossword.
Do your job, man.
Put your crossword down. Yeah.
But then the whole like fireproof envelope, I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I did.
My dog's eating the carpet. Sorry.
Yeah, I did think the way they cut. So when he got through to, is it Dory, his sweet old housemaid?
Yeah.
I frankly feel she faked us out a bit.
Really?
Yeah, well, she's like, she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's like,
I expected like Riddler just to be stood there, like when she was like, oh, I'm really sorry.
No, but I, in terms of fake out, that very much made it feel like Alfred had died.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
At that point, that very much gave the vibe of Alfred is dead. He got caught in the explosion.
That like the acting from like Rob Pattinson being like, he's trying to like push his car as far as he can, and you can tell he's like, that's kind of the switch that it's like, okay, I do actually care, like I do, like, and I think that scene in itself, to go from a car chase, which is like all explosions and this and that, and then it's all like cars rolling and all that stuff, to genuine like, oh my god, I've got to get home, like I've got.
This is possibly the first time that it's come back.
Yeah, like it's the first time you've really seen any emotion.
I remember Arkham Origins doing something similar. Arkham Origins did something similar. It's one of the best bits of the game, because he realizes that Bane has figured out who Batman is, and he's gone to gone to the Batcave, and Alfred is there, and he's clinically dead, and Bruce has to restart his heart with the electrocutioner's gloves, and that's like the only time you've really seen something like. I mean, I get, in terms of like caring for Alfred, that is one of the massive positives about Batman and Robin. That's actually quite a sweet moment where,
at one point,
like, it's the best bit of acting from George Clooney in that film is he's sat across from this man who's raised him, and like he is more than adequately getting across. I'm gutted. Like, you're dying of this horrific disease, and there's literally nothing I can do. Like, I should be able to do something with doctors and stuff like that. I'm Bruce Wayne. I'm the richest man on the planet. How can I not fix this?
But I think that's where like Pattinson has his moment where he's like even when he's in the hospital, and he's kind of like, I didn't really care about me. Like, I'm not scared of dying. Like, I'm not bothered about me. This is about the mission type thing. this isn't about me. But then he's like, actually, I've just realised I do actually care about you. And these people around me who like I want to protect, and that's why I'm kind of doing this. And it's like, oh God, like he's like this realization that he's like.
Is it the fireproof Riddler clue that gets us to like the orphanage or whatever it was that derelict building?
Yeah. So we end up in the orphanage. We end up in the derelict building, and like I was saying this to Ty before we started, like it's a long film, and there were 2 points where I thought, is this now where we're going one step extra? Do we need this extra thing? And when we get to the orphanage, it kind of, to be fair, does tie together this idea that Carmine Falcone had something to do with Thomas Wayne's murder, which then had something to do with the renewal project, and it all led to this rat thing happening. But then there's literally a point where, by the bat symbol, there's Batman, Catwoman, and Jim Gordon will be there as well. And they kind of go, we're going to deal with Falcone, and then we'll go. And I was a bit like, do we need both of that? Are we kind of taking a sidestep now and going doing this? It gave us more Falcone, it gave us more Totoro, so I can't really complain about that. But then as well, the other one was when I'm jumping forward. I'll leave it for a sec. So basically the big reveal that happens here is that Martha Wayne was hospitalized for mental illness. The Arkhams sort of covered it all up. They covered up the fact that Martha's parents, Martha's mum killed Martha's dad and then shot herself. Yeah. And then they covered that all up. So then Martha was an orphan. Go on.
Is Martha an Arkham in the comics, Ty?
I think it's in the game.
Yeah, I don't. It possibly is, but not like a prominent comic. If that makes sense.
I can't imagine that they spent too long going really deep into that backstory.
Like it really fits in this story as well because of like ultimately the theme they go for, and I do like the idea that they have they recognize that the Arkham is not just the name of a building; it's named after a family, and they would also be major players in the city of Gotham. So therefore, getting two of them married, yay, money. But I kind of hinted at this before. This is the first, certainly in a live action, but the only other bit of media outside of comics, like I said, that I've seen this idea in is one of the Telltale games. The idea that the Waynes were not saints. The idea that they were billionaires, they were probably pretty scummy in some of the things they did. And the idea of Batman having to reconcile that these people he has put up on a pedestal that he has.
There's been that before where it's the idea of like Thomas Wayne not being, and then there's like the whole Court of Owls thing.
Oh yeah, but that's a comic thing. I'm saying in film.
Yeah. Oh right, okay,
This is very because I know that I've not read enough comics to have an opinion, but I know that the comics will have delved into that plenty.
Yes, I think the idea is though. I think the idea of, and this is going to sound really bad, but. Not anyway, it doesn't matter. But I know what I'm talking about. So sorry. I think the idea of like old school mental health is very like it's kind of a buzzword at the minute. And it's kind of a thing that people are talking about. But way back when, like if you're looking at this as a realistic thing, Martha Wayne being like at where it is and it being like a bit mental and like subtles and all stuff like that. That's not something that 10 years ago would have been looked into or would have been looked at. It's a very much like, okay, we can use this now because people have got such an awareness of it. Well, so I think that idea of using it in this film is good, but you probably wouldn't get it in Nolan's film or like an 89 film. Do you know what I mean?
But not even that he's trying to cover up mental health, like maybe the idea that just Thomas Wayne is prone to corruption. Like something like that. And that's what they're hinting at with this. Because I remember George is saying, well, that's not that bad. And it's like, we're saying that now, like it's similar to what you're saying, Ty. Like, no, mental health wouldn't be stigmatized like that now. You know, if it turned out that Michelle Obama had, well, that's long enough ago that it probably would have been. But like if the next presidential candidate, if they'd had treatment at a mental or a psychiatric facility and come through it the other side, that'd be you like as scummy as it sounds. You could massively use that politically. You could be like, I know what it's like. You know, I've worked firsthand with people who suffer with these issues. So, but regardless, Thomas Wayne saw that as a dampener to his mayoral campaign, so he looked to silence it.
Yeah.
That is scummy. That is is lower level compared to some of the other people that we deal with in this film, but that is corrupt, and he was willing to do morally dubious, if not legally dubious, things to get that silence. And Batman, Bruce, cannot wrap his head around that because he's always held his parents up on a pedestal, and he has to reconcile these people who I'm fighting for the city on behalf of.
Yeah,
they're just as bad. Like,
but then that idea of him being like, he's so quick to judge his father because of what Falcone said, and then when Alfred's in the hospital and he's like, no, that's not what happened. Like, that's the idea.
Alfred is just as biased as well. And frankly, I don't buy Alfred's explanation. Oh, he cared about your mother. No, that you didn't. Like, you didn't. What would the negative impact of that coming out have been? Like, his mother would have been scrutinized a bit, would they? Like, and
but that's the thing. It's like, if you look at it like the idea is, oh my God, you've got to do something because of my running for mayor and stuff like that, and like, oh my God, it's going to ruin my reputation, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And then the idea of Alfred being like, no, he didn't care about that. He cared about your mum. Is kind of like, well, I can kind of, I can see that. Like, I don't think I'm a morally ambiguous person, but if it came down to it, to protect my daughter, I would kill everybody in the room and not think anything of it, because that's the way I am I truly believe that. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying I've got that in me, or I'm not saying I'm this big tough guy, but what I'm saying is your morals go out the window when
well, that's why Alfred says he's a good man, doesn't it? You know, that's why, you know, in Alfred's eyes, he's still done that thing. I mean, the Wikipedia kind of summarizes it a little bit. So he says, Alfred confirms that Thomas asked Falcone to murder the journalist. So there's been a journalist that was going to leak all the stuff about Martha coming out, but decided to turn Falcone over to the police after learning of the murder. He surmises that Falcone had Thomas and Martha killed to prevent this. So again, it is just a kind of, I can't be sure, but I'm assuming that this
I like
happened.
that though, because it's like, even when Alfred's talking, he's like, I don't know if that's what happened. And every day I think about it. Like, I don't. Yeah. There's still that ambiguity about it, where it's like, we still don't actually know. We're still not sure. But we've got this mob boss's idea of what happened.
Georgia pointed out though, Batman as a detective, it's weird that he hasn't figured out who it is, because that seems like, especially this Batman would have obsessed over because I quite like the actual, because I'm pretty sure it's the accepted story, and I think it's the one that Nolan went with, that it was Joe Chill. It was just some random, he was basically a random street thug, and maybe he had something.
Because Alfred says that, doesn't he? Yeah, he says like, oh, it could have just been
could have been. Like, I wouldn't have minded a definitive, because Batman, otherwise it does become a bit of a revenge story for Batman, and we've seen that. We've seen that with Batman 89 and stuff like that.
But I think that's what Batman is. Like, I think that's
vengeance.
That's the fundamental of him, that he's like, he genuinely doesn't know how to deal with the fact that the Waynes own the city, and he's now the orphan. Know what I mean? And that's even touched on with the Riddler in prison, and he's like, you don't know what it's like to be an orphan. Like, you always
because you say orphan, but Hightower, Silver Spoon. Oh like,
Well, that annoyed Georgia as well, because Georgia just turned to me and was like, well, he is an orphan because both his parents are dead. So because it kind of goes with, you know, when it's almost the idea of, you're not allowed to have a mental illness, or you're not allowed to be suffering because you've got money. And it's like, no, you can still be incredibly traumatized. He saw his parents murdered. Like, yes,
but then you're reasoning with a madman, aren't you? That's the thing. You're not going to get that through.
That's what you want. That's what's so good about this Riddler. Is that in that moment you're like, he doesn't know what it's like to be.
So
obviously he does.
Let's go to that bit then, because that's what happens sort of immediately after this. So they get Carmine Falcone, they take him outside. He sort of believes,
piece of action as well.
He thinks, you know, I own you all work for me. And then there's all the coppers out there going, nah, not all of us do. And then Riddler, who actually at first we think it's Oz that shoots him, but it's not. It's actually Riddler with a sniper rifle from another window. So then that leads them to Riddler's lair and all that kind of stuff. And then they arrest him in the coffee shop that you see in one of the trailers. So then fast forward to Riddler being in Arkham, unmasked, full Paul Dano, all that kind of stuff.
Pulling so many uncomfortable faces. Paul
So many
Dano.
uncomfortable
Oh
faces.
my god!
Yeah, he's so good.
I believe that he's mentally insane.
Yeah.
Like
I
totally
love the
believe
job
it.
that they gave him as well. Is that his job in the comics, Ty, of like forensic accountant?
Yes, it is. He has got.
They've changed his name, though, haven't they, slightly?
Yeah,
Because
he's kind of a few jobs that he's had. Yeah, he's
Hmm.
kind of a few different things that he's done. It depends where you kind of delve into it. The more realistic ones, yeah, like, but then other ones, he just does what he does. Like, he has got a job. Do you know what I mean?
What was his name on his other ID? Because I wondered if that might be an Easter egg as well. You know when
I
he's
didn't
like,
catch that. Yeah,
I saw Edward Nashton. I didn't see the other name, and I wondered if that was like.
I don't know why
wondered
they've
if the
changed
surname.
it. Well, it's a Nashton, though. I don't know why they've done that.
Because Edward Nigma is a bit on the nose. Like
True.
it's a bit on the nose. Like for
True.
this film,
Yeah,
that's a bit silly.
Yeah,
Like they didn't call Penguin Oswald Cobblepot, like Adam pointed out, because that's a bit silly.
Yeah.
Like Carmine Falcone, fine. Salvatore Moroni, fine.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne, fine.
He has, because I think in Gotham he had a job like that, didn't he?
He was one of the he worked for Gotham PD. Yeah.
So I think the idea of it is there, but to be honest with you, especially with Batman, it's really hard to kind of get not a grounded, but like a one line view of all the kind of like rogues gallery, if you like, because you get somewhere to like, okay, I'm going to do this street level and it's going to be like nitty gritty and it's going to be cool, and then you get other ones where like Batman's in space and you're like, all right, like, do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's dead hard to get like one thing, and then comics at the minute I've got this thing where they're like, okay, we're going to rewrite that, like we're going to rewrite the history of this and we're going to do that. So there's a lot of things where like a lot of things make sense, and as I say, I've read a lot of Batman, but I've never seen a Riddler like this before.
To be fair, there's a
thingy, but not like this.
There's a bit on the wiki page.
Sometimes the films can influence the comic. Like Harley Quinn was introduced in the animated series and then became a staple character in the comics.
Oh yeah.
Can you see a comic run where they go more like this for Riddler?
Yes, definitely, because they did it with the Joker.
Yeah.
So they did a more like ledger version of Joker, where he was like insane. But then they have their own insane version of Joker. So it's like, it depends what you read more of. But like the actual original like Batman comic and Batman run, definitely I can see this. I just can't see him in a big plastic green suit. That's the only thing. That's like such a throw from where he is and like what he does. Because even in the games, I think he's a bit mental in the games.
They make him a bit more grubby, don't they?
Yeah, but he's still got that like
motif
mark stuff and
you
know what I mean? Like, this isn't really, he kind of like sprays paint to places, and it's not really in this film. It's not really him. It's more his followers who are like doing all this stuff. That's like the question mark.
I did like how the film took some of the stuff from the games, though, with the whole like when they go into the orphanage. There's a couple of bits in the game where it's like you go into Riddler's. He sends you into a building, and it's a bit
and
like
he puts arrows everywhere to tell you where to go.
There's a bit on the wiki that says actually that Edward Nashton is the birth name, so it might be that Nigma's used as a kind of pseudonym at some point.
I think he's literally called Edward Nigma in Batman Forever, to be fair.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Mr. Enigma. That's what they say. Mr.
Enigma.
Do you get it? Do you get it? Subtle with a silent B. Do you get
it? When we were watching that scene when he walked in and it has all the painting on the wall and that, got like whatever it said, like thingies in the orphanage, and you heard like the news reporter Thomas Wayne, I think it was, and Rachel leaned over to me and was like, think we're going to get a projector and a big sheet on the wall here, like that, and literally walked in, and that's basically what it was. I was like, oh my God. She was like, yeah, that's like totally out the game. That's like literally what she's gonna be like, yeah, that's a cool thing. Like, a big sheet on the wall and a projector. Let's go. Like,
there we go.
Like, that's so funny.
God, his lair was so creepy as well.
Yeah. It's like a
really reminded me of in Seven, where they go into
Is it
John
Sloth?
Doe's room.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Really reminded me of that.
Yeah.
It was, and like his manifestos everywhere and the reading through it, and you just know that some poor film intern has had to spend hours just scrolling out on an however many books.
And then the copper goes, "There's thousands." I was like, "I bet there is, but you're only going to show us one, aren't you?"
Yeah.
No, it's funny though. Like I didn't, not that I didn't like, but I thought would have been nice, is when Batman was looking through all that stuff and realised that he does that. Like the realization that he's got his own journal, and he's got loads of his own journals, and he looked through and it was kind of like
seeing the other side of the coin there.
Yeah, we're not that different, Oh god. Yeah. But nothing was really mentioned of that. It just kind of like when he was like seeing it, and it was like going, it was like, what about is a chain of like evidence or something like that?
Oh yeah, he goes, what we're gonna do about this? Yeah.
Like he's wearing gloves, like it's sound.
Yeah.
Like,
but you know what he's not wearing, and what a lot of the detectives aren't wearing, which would be an issue, a mask. Because he's breathing DNA everywhere. It's going to be coming off of his skin. Like, again, it's something that everyone... But Jim Gordon's there, like, just wearing latex gloves. Great, your dandruff's everywhere, mate. You have contaminated this scene. Notice how half the people are in those, like, full smocks. Because that's what you need to be in as a crime scene investigator.
Do you think they left out the mask bit because people thought, oh, that's just a normal day?
Because people have seen enough of them.
Yeah, see, like, oh, they're just walking around.
Batman doesn't wear a mask properly. He don't cover his nose.
All we want is a bit of escapism.
Yeah.
I said this to my friend afterwards. I did not expect the ending of the film to be the ending of the film. Like, if you said to me going in, 5 now, how do you think this film's going to end? I would have said Batman beating Riddler up in a sort of small thingy, not the entire of Gotham City flooding.
Yeah, fair.
Like, I would not have said that at all.
You've gone over the interrogation scene. Man.
Well, no, I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it. No, the only reason I mention it is because the bit where the carpet tool. Good old Officer Martinez going, I recognise that. Bit of,
one guy who knows
one guy for the whole film, and they're all like, "Is this a chisel? What is it?" You know. Right. So the interrogation scene, right? I don't want to do comparisons, but obviously,
I was about to say, are we going to compare it with Dark Knight?
It's very, it's yeah.
I think genuine in terms of quality as well, like. Sorry, it's so good.
One thing to take away from this film, I'm not listening to Ave Maria the same way again.
Oh my God, no.
That's quite frightening, isn't it?
Yeah. I think him like singing it.
He's singing it.
And he's like losing his mind slowly as every line comes out of his mouth. He's like, oh my God. Like, and I think the idea of like, I'm thinking that they were sort of friends this whole time. Like,
we were partners. They could have done a bit more with that.
This weird kind of kinship that they've got because they're orphans.
I think they could have done a bit more with that. Maybe it's like because it was just like, oh, you brought him into the light. It's like, well, yeah. What about the other three that I didn't help you with? And it's like maybe you could have had something of him like being partly responsible for getting Coulson out of the club and into the car, like me. I think they could have done more with that, where it is like a. Hello Zeb moment from Saw, where you realise that he's played him the whole time. Because he is very Jigsaw. This Riddler,
there was
very
one
Jigsaw
line of dialogue that sounded very Jigsaw to me. I can't remember what it was, but it was just his turn of phrase and the way that he said it. I was like, oh, that's a bit Tobin Bell.
And Paul Dano in that. And I like as well, kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but like Joker has a very convoluted plot in Dark Knight that involves him getting arrested and then breaking out again.
I expected that to happen. This is what I mean.
I'm really happy that he didn't plan to get out. He was like, I'm in the asylum now. Like,
I fully expected it to go the way of like, he's in there now, but he's definitely going to get out. And then there's going to be a big thing between the two of them at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I didn't know how they were going to do it, but I think they did it quite quickly in terms of you got the hint quite quickly that he's left. I thought he'd left something, and I assumed it would be a bomb or something.
Well, the one thing that was quite refreshing was that obviously it's bombs again, which isn't refreshing because the issue with Batman and bombs is just a constant thing, in it. But he said there's bombs all around the city because obviously when he pulls the carpet up and you see the dots and stuff, I thought we were then going to go on a half an hour. Let's try and get to all the bombs and deactivate all the bombs. But then they just start blowing up, and I was like, all right, okay, fine.
Yeah, they just wreck Gotham. Fair enough.
And then all of his followers going, oh, I know where I can buy one of them suits and them hats in that shop.
Rifles are good, and like that was. And something I noticed as well, and Ty won't be privy to it all because he don't watch trailers. I remember watching, the "What have you done?" in the trailer, and it being a bit naff. Do you remember?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
The "What have you done?" in the trailer was a bit naff. None of the "What have you done?" in the film are naff. No. The "What have you done?" in the film.
So when he's punching the glass.
Yeah.
That was it. I didn't know.
There was like a second take in the trailer because they tried the best as possible to hide the fact that Paul Dano was obviously unmasked at this point.
Yeah. I didn't realize I wouldn't have thought they would have put that in there. Just because of you can see. But then I suppose, if you're not showing the other side of the glass,
yeah. Okay. Complete side note. I'm so glad it wasn't Jonah Hill. Because Jonah Hill was originally cast as the Riddler.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
And then he basically they weren't paying him enough money, so he said no, and then they got Paul Dano in.
I mean, I've only seen Paul Dano.
Cannot imagine Jonah Hill.
No.
Like I've only seen Paul Dano in this and in Prisoners, and he's just a lunatic in both.
Oh, he's great in Little Miss Sunshine. He's incredible.
Like it make me want to watch more of his films.
I tell you what, if you went and watched Little Miss Sunshine after this, you would not be seeing it in the same way.
He's great in There Will Be Blood. He's great in. He's got a very short bit in Looper as well, and he's involved in like the best and most horrific bit of Looper. Really? Like there's a really horrifying part because he's the guy who doesn't. Yeah, he's the guy who doesn't kill his future self when his future self comes through, and then the future self escapes, and then bits of him just start going missing.
Right.
Oh. Yeah, I've seen 3 films then. I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah, wow. It's Paul Dano.
Yeah, I didn't know.
But yeah, he's incredible. He's very good at he's just his psychotic energy in this is frightening. Like
he said himself that he had trouble sleeping in that afterwards, which is like everyone's like, oh my god, oh no, like it's happening again. But I think he's kind of one of them actors who he really he kind of tries to get into it as much as possible, and he gets into that character, and he there's probably a lot of stuff he's done and said and ways to get into that mentality that you would never know.
He is quite method.
You'd never know or never see. But and that's what makes a good actor, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think they do a good job of towing the line with him. Like you do understand where he's coming from, the idea that he is ultimately against bad people. He is against corruption, but a lot of the time, you will get the villain has quite an admirable goal and then does something very tonally dissident to remind you that they're a villain. Oh, I'm fighting police injustice. Excuse me while I bludgeon this cat to death. Maybe not that extreme, but it can come across a bit like that. Whereas this guy, where he crosses the line isn't that dissonant from his thought process. He is mentally ill and he is an extremist and he is very clever. So he's very good at articulating his viewpoint. You can pick it apart a bit, but he's very... How did you guys think he knew who Batman was at any point in this?
Well, I did from the trailer. Because in the trailer, it kind of alludes to the fact that he says Bruce Wayne.
But I didn't. It was only when, even to the point where when he said Bruce Wayne, and Batman's eyes were oh no, and he was and even at that point I was what this is, and then obviously as it played out, he didn't. But that was kind of
there's actually another bit with the naivety. I'm jumping forward here. You know the bit where I mean, he gets shot with a shotgun, doesn't he, Batman? And
point blank,
yeah. And then he almost goes to take his mask off, doesn't he, to sort of show Selena who he is, and she's like, "No, don't bother, don't bother, don't. Doesn't matter. You don't need to do that."
Yeah.
Because I just thought again, there's the naivety of him going, "Oh, I actually need to know who I am if I'm,
I'm gonna die."
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
That was a great, like, that final sequence though. That was so
again,
good.
like I did not expect it to end that way. Like I did not expect that to be the final sequence of just Gotham flooding and it being set basically in Madison Square Garden.
I thought as well, I didn't know, like, I thought it would have been a very niche reference. I don't think it is, but I remember, you know what, like after he gets shot and then Selena's getting strangled by some bloke.
Yeah.
I thought he'd inject, like, because that looked like a very, like, luminous green liquid.
I thought it was like Bane toxin.
I thought, Venom.
Yeah.
I thought he was injecting himself with a bit of Venom type and so like a super steroid. It was probably just adrenaline.
Yeah.
Probably. But I remember thinking, oh, is that meant to be Venom? Like,
because he got a bit crazy, didn't he?
Yeah. I like that he had like a special bit in his suit that like he opened a little flap and was like,
was it near his heart?
Yeah, like it was like a little. I don't know. It was weird. It was like a little thing that, and it was like a perfect place for it, or whatever it was.
I just remember as well. His bat symbol comes off, and there's a bit where he puts it back on when I think he's in Edward's lair.
Yeah, he cuts through the police tape, doesn't he, to get to.
Right. Yeah, that was my question. It's like, why was it off in the first place? I like that he's like.
It.
Yeah,
like
he just cuts through it, and then it's like
he's going to throw that as a batarang in the next film, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
Like 100%.
And then he's going to have to run after it to get it back because it's not a boomerang.
I reckon you could write it in where there's like a little guidance computer chip in there.
Well, the remote control batarang in the game.
Yeah, exactly. So, which goes very slowly.
All he's got to do is be in a group of people and like throw it. It hits someone. They go down. He does a little fighting, spins it down, pulls it out, does his thing.
And you see it in this one as well. I love that he's not afraid to use his grapple guns to shoot for a guy's shoulder or a guy's leg.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like,
you're in my way. I'm gonna. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing that for the first time in Batman v Superman in that amazing warehouse scene, which in terms of fight choreography, I would still argue hasn't been topped.
Yeah, it was a good scene.
Like that was a really good Batman just beating people. And he shoots someone through a shoulder and then pile drives them into a bar. Well, I love that this Batman is not afraid to do that. Why wouldn't he shoot? Like, because I mean, loophole. He's using the gun and it might kill him because hospital building. But still, like he's not afraid to like yank someone by the legs and stuff like
that. Gun through the heart.
It's like a Terminator 2 thing, isn't it? Where he's like, "I told you not to kill anyone," and he's like, "Don't worry, no one will die." And then he's like,
shoots the guy through both his legs.
Like shooting like all these cops and all the cars are exploding everywhere, and then it's like fatality 0, and he's like, "Okay." Everyone's maimed to death. Like people like legs are over here. People aren't walking and that.
Wait, 800, mate. You know exactly where every single one of those thousands of bullets in your minigun is going. Yes.
yeah. That's it. It's like no one's dead, so it's fine.
He just needs a Tom Cruise in Collateral attitude. He didn't kill him. The bullets in the fall killed him.
Well, that's it. Yeah. When I didn't. Right. So do you know the end fight scene when he was like knocking them out and that? Were they hanging themselves?
No, they all had rappel gear on. So they had like harnesses on around their back. So it looked like their neck will have been around their back because they're getting ready to like rappel down.
Oh, they were gonna they were gonna rappel
that's
down.
What when they were like thinking because that's what it looked like. I was like, you might not be killing them, but if they're hanging, they're dead. So it was only one of them who like a few of them fell, and then one of them kind of like spun off the side, and as he fell, it was like and he sort of and I was like,
if you look again, his arm.
Did they kill themselves?
It was just harnesses. He was punching because that just effectively does immobilize them. I think he knocks them out and just sends them over so that they're not in. But
I was like, is that their thing? That he's like, okay, so now this is what we're gonna do. Like we're the Riddler's followers, and we're gonna do this, but kill ourselves while we're doing it because that's what we do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, go on.
That final shot with the flare.
Oh yeah, I liked the flare bit.
Because that's him realizing that he can't just be vengeance; he's got to be hope.
Yeah,
he's
And it comes full circle with the kid. The kid saw something in him when he was at his dad's murder scene, and he saw something in him at the funeral without realizing it. And the kid is the first one to put faith in Batman. And Batman's helping Peter. Yes.
The new mayor isn't. The new mayor's got shot, and then she's underwater, just like
chilling. Yeah.
He's like, let the kid go first.
I don't want to go. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not.
Sam.
You've covered your microphone, you bloody numpty.
Oh, sorry.
Brrr.
My bad. Sorry.
But I did like that because, like, it is clear from the get-go, like, going way back to that initial fight scene, the guy that he saves is terrified of him because why wouldn't you be? A mass lunatic is just beating up a gang of thugs.
Don't hurt me after you just beat up all these people.
Yeah, after you've just saved my life. Like,
it is probably, I would say, like, as a whole, there's a lot of, like you don't need, like, you're obviously gonna do a second one, but there's no, like, necessarily loose ends, if you like it's very, like, it's full circle as a film goes. Like, you've got, he's turned it round that, like, not everyone's scared of him anymore, so he's like the hope of the city. And when he carries that girl and he puts her on the stretcher at the end, and she, like, grabs hold of him, and he's like it's fine, it's okay.
Georgia nearly cried when they show the wide shots, and there's that swimming dog.
All right.
Just like struggling to get across it because she can't be doing with animals in distress at all. And that swimming dog there like that, just keeping his head above water, like.
Never watch I Am Legend, Jesus Christ.
Oh my God,
because I thought, although you've just said that it kind of wraps everything up and it could be a neat ball and all that kind of stuff, I think they tried to sort of toe the line a little bit, and they were like, let's leave enough in to sort of, we can come back to this.
Yeah.
But we don't want to hedge our bets and go, this is going to happen.
There's not sequel bait stuff though. You know, like, we're going to have, I don't know, like, it's
not like
really
Riddler's like jail cell door opens and he walks out. Yeah.
Well, it's one of we'll look at Batman Begins, and at the end of Batman Begins, like, obviously was set because
the card, mind you, to be fair, we're also doing something very similar in this that I wasn't expecting.
I didn't. Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about that because what did I get? I got sent the cast list as part of the press notes and stuff.
And you wondered
in the cast list, it says Barry Keoghan, unnamed Arkham prisoner. And I was like, huh? And then there was a point where when we'd not seen him, I just thought, oh, maybe they cut his scenes. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh, here we go. Here's Joker.
Because that's a weird one as well. For him to be an unnamed prisoner, like, he's not a big name. Like, so on the one hand, he's too big a name to have a throwaway cameo like that, because he's been in plenty.
He's noticeable.
He was in Eternals. I'm pretty sure he's in Peaky Blinders as well. He's in he's the third actor that's in Chernobyl from this film.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. He plays Pavel, the young lad who, like, doesn't want to shoot puppies, which fair play. On the flip side of that, is he ready for the role that they've clearly given him?
I mean, it's a young Joker then, isn't it?
He's a very young Joker.
The thing is, though, he doesn't have to be. Like, although he's been given that role and he's done that, like, it could change. Like, it could be someone new if they were going to do it. I think the Joker's played out, to be fair. Like,
when he gave him his own riddle, I thought the answer was going to be joke.
Yeah.
And I thought that was where they were going to leave that then.
Yeah.
But then he did his laugh, didn't he? And, all that
kind
of stuff.
At the same time, the way they've done the Riddler, that doesn't necessarily have to be the Joker. Like, he looked a bit scarred up, so he could have been Two-Face. He looked a bit scarred up, so he could have been...
could have been Zaz.
But yeah, could have been Firefly, because he's like...
I don't think they'd bother doing Zaz, and I think that's a shame, because I think there could be...
There could be something in his Zaz.
To be fair, I think the second Harley Quinn film did Zaz quite well, as a named henchman.
Yeah.
Like, that's quite a good role for Zaz.
Yeah. But yeah, I just hate, it's just like, you've got to have Batman, so you've got to have Joker somewhere.
I'm a bit of the same way. I'm a bit fatigued with the reliance on Joker.
Yeah, this film has spent however long proving that you don't need the Joker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you go and throw that in at the end.
It's
Yeah,
quite
Mr.
similar
Freeze
to Batman
back.
Begins.
That's what you want.
Well, we had this conversation, didn't we, Ollie, about apparently if they do a second one, Matt Reeves wants to do a grounded Mr. Freeze.
Well, I've heard a couple. I've heard another one as well. So a grounded Mr. Freeze would be fantastic. I couldn't get off Fassbender as my Mr. Freeze personally, Michael Fassbender. One that's been put to the whole cast. So like there was a theory question that was put to the whole cast that Thomas and Martha Wayne were at the head of the Court of Owls.
Yeah.
And Pattinson made no secret of the fact that he would love to do a Court of Owls story.
Court of Owls is like so good. Like even if you don't read comics.
So I'm not familiar with the Court of Owls. Give me a synopsis.
Dressed up Illuminati, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a bit more to it than that, and I'd be able to give you more details. But the 1 second summary is Illuminati with fancy costumes.
Yes, yeah, but it sort of like it drips into like everywhere. Like the way they did it in the comic was so good. But it's one of them stories. Like this seems like a bit of a cop out, but it's one of them stories that like to tell you about it kind of ruins it.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
In a way, like it's one of them things that like right in the start of the whole sort of story arc, like it comes back to other things. So it's like to say certain things opens up a bit too much of the story.
Right.
So you wouldn't like I didn't know anything about it when I read it. I've told my mates about it and they're like, oh yeah, I seen that coming. Oh, I seen that
maybe
coming.
I'll just go and read it then.
Yeah. I would suggest that you do. It's very good. It's very
How many issues is it?
I think these 12 maybe.
Could they do it in one film, or would they need more than one film?
Well, apparently it's the idea for the
it's the game, isn't it? The Gotham Knights game.
Yeah, Telltale's done a bit with it as well, I think.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But it like I think it would be good. I think it'd be difficult to do. I think it's one of them where it feels a lot like when I found out that Civil War was coming out. And it's like,
right.
Is it though? Yeah.
No, it's just not going to be the same. Like,
the
iconic like panel from that is like
Cap holding a shield up and Iron Man like repulsor blasting.
Yeah. So all that stuff is like, but then you've got like the Punisher carrying like a fallen Spider-Man, and it's like you're not going to have that because Spider-Man's brand new. He's not set up for that. There's no point.
And you've not got the right to Punisher.
Yeah, like so these when it was like, oh, they're doing Civil War, I was like, are they though? Are they? Like,
it kind of isn't as well. They have a scrap at an airport, and that's about it. As much as I love that film, it's not. But it's not the massive battle of philosophy that I know the Civil War comic is.
Yeah, that's it. I think it's one of them as well. Like with a lot of things like this, like me personally, I love Batman films, but if I had the option to like watch a Batman film or read a story arc in a comic of Batman that I know is sublime, I would pick the comic every time because that's where it's from. That's what
it is a shame you don't get more high quality film adaptations. Under the Red Hood's had a really good adaptation.
Yes.
Dark Knight Returns has had a fantastic adaptation.
Well, I think Dark Knight Returns, if you read Dark Knight Returns and then you watch Ben Affleck as Batman, it makes a lot more sense.
That makes a lot more sense because I'd seen the film with Peter. RoboCop as the voice of Batman. Yes, goddamn please.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, he's so good. And like you get it. That's a really good one for getting some of the iconic shots, that leaping across the lightning and stuff like that. And then you get Killing Joke, which should have been.
Yeah.
Killing Joke should have been the best animated Batman film ever.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was awful.
I've got.
Is that because people put Killing Joke on a pedestal?
Yes, 100%.
Kind of, but it was also like the film itself. It almost relied a bit too much on the comics, so the film ends up looking very static. Because a comic can get away with that because you haven't got a choice in a comic. You've got still images. That's all you can do. Like that iconic image of him, like ha ha, and he's surrounded by ha 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 ha's. They just like shift his head up and down a bit, and because you've not got the ha ha ha's in the background, you've just got Mark Hamill's incredible laugh.
It looks a bit lazy. I think.
Did they do a long Halloween film?
The what?
Did they do a long
What did you
Halloween film?
I think they have, you know.
Yeah, they have. I've got Long Halloween Part 1 and 2 on Blu-ray. I haven't watched it yet.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
With Jensen Ackles as Batman, which is
Wow, that's
He
not bad.
did Red Hood, didn't he?
Yeah, he's been Red Hood. He was
Yeah.
incredible as Red
Yeah,
Hood.
yeah, I
so
really
he's
like that one.
Batman, which is partly why I was like, I need to buy this. Like, I need to.
Our boy Jensen.
Yeah, because
he's a good boy, is Jensen.
Yeah, he is.
He's our Dean, isn't he?
So I so I've got, but I haven't watched it yet. So I've got Part 1 and 2 for Christmas, but I haven't had time to sit down and watch it.
Right.
I watched Tick Tick Boom instead when I had
Good
time.
choice.
So there you go. It was one or the other, and I thought, well, Adam would like if I watched it.
Well, and I did.
I did, yeah.
I suppose then, let's get down to the nitty gritty. I said this same question to my friend. If I was giving it stars out of 5, I'd go 4. Ty, where would you go?
I would go a little bit higher.
Yeah,
I would say.
I would as well.
Okay.
Are we allowed to do half?
Yeah, I would.
If you want to
say
do half, you do half.
4.5 for me.
Can we do 2.5? No,
Oh, don't do that again.
We've had this conversation about my 2.5s on the wrestling podcast. No, yeah, I'd say 4. Yeah, probably 4.5.
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
But out of interest, where does it rank?
Well, I've written them down, so this is
all right.
plan.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
So let's do the easy one. Is it Batman? Is it better than Batman versus Superman?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you come up? Did you do this ranking on your Batman?
No, I've just written them down in terms of like. Do you want to try and do a ranking now? Should we try and do this?
Up/tier list.
Yes.
Like, and then we try and get a what's it out of that.
See, this is where it comes
hang on
from,
then.
because we've talked for like 2 hours, and I am not. Okay, I don't know how to say this, but
do you reckon this could be its own podcast, Ty? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm about to say is no one really likes, but I think The Dark Knight is really, really, really good, but I don't think it's as good as people think it is, and this is the issue that I have. And I've talked for 2 hours, and I've failed saying that, but I think. Do you think it will be as good as it was if it wasn't for what happened to Heath Ledger?
Yes.
Right, I've said this myself. I was really scared of that. And every time I've subsequently gone back to watch the film, I've had to kick myself for thinking such silly thoughts, because it is just a stupendous. It would still be a good film. It would still be a great film if it wasn't Batman and the Joker as the characters. If it was just its own thing. It's beautifully shot. It's clearly had a massive impact on action films to this day. Like many films want to be Dark Knight.
No, and that's all fair. But see, I think it comes down to me not being the biggest fan.
Yeah.
Do you reckon this is his Hamilton?
It might be.
Like, so for me, Ty, Hamilton.
Ty likes Hamilton, by the way.
Right. I recognise how good Hamilton is. Okay. I like Hamilton. I am really glad I watched it on Disney Plus. I would never pay money to go and see it live because of the amount of money that you'd have to spend to get tickets for it versus how much I think I would enjoy it based on the music. Like, I objectively know it is a very good thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the vibe you're giving for Dark Knight. You know it's great.
Yeah.
Is it that other people have kind of put it on this pedestal where you're like, for God's sake, it's not that good?
Yeah. Do you know what, right? Do you know what it may come down to? That, again, this is quite controversial, but I'm not the biggest fan of Christian Bale as Batman because
I get that.
Right, I will say this, right. Out of all 3 films, he is not the best thing in any of them films.
Yes, that's definitely fair.
And that is a downfall.
I like his Bruce
Batman.
Wayne.
I like him. Yeah. He's good.
But I'm splitting those two apart. Yeah. I do like his Bruce Wayne. He does a really good job of that playboy, putting people off of his scent as Batman. I love that side of him. But his actual Batman is like I said, the thing I love about this Batman, Robert Pattinson's Batman, he's a detective. You see him figuring stuff out, and you don't really see that with Christian Bale's Batman. Like, people point to the bit in Dark Knight where he uses some weird magical technology to recreate a bullet and get a thumbprint off of it. And it's like, what? No, just get fingerprints like a normal person. You weird. Because that ends up being too complicated for its own good, and it makes the Joker look implausible. Like, oh, the Joker knew that a thumbprint would be on this bullet, that someone would have the magic technology to replicate, to bring this guy to this place so that someone could shoot at him, to then get captured. And
like although Nolan has said himself pretty much that it's draped in realism. He does take certain liberties where this one doesn't. The only one you could kind of get, as you've said, is the thumb drive. To be like, that probably
you've got a nitpick to get around the realism.
Yeah, but this one is like very much a detective. Like I said before we started this, if you took Batman out and this was, even if you kept it in Gotham, so you did a series, I think they've actually talked about this, but you did a series like Gotham PD, right? And there was a detective and it was Jim Gordon's story, and Jim Gordon was the greatest detective, not Batman. And his partner was less of a good detective.
Harvey Bullock.
Yeah.
And he was like, that's awesome. There's a TV show with Fish Mooney.
Well, there you go. So they did that, and the central character of this film was Jim Gordon, and he was like, I'm the greatest detective, and he's like, oh, I don't know this, and he's solving all the riddles dead quick. You could still make this film, and it'd still be a good film without Batman.
Yeah. What I love about this film,
I can't decide if that's good or bad.
What I love about this film, because I remember reading the kind of tongue-in-cheek theory that Seven is a Batman prequel. So like it's set in Gotham before Batman ever shows up. And it explains why the crimes are as horrific as they are and why the city is a bit nondescript. You can't really tell where they are. It does, and it's like such a broken mess of the city. And this film almost felt like the Seven sequel we never got. In a way, like I'm not saying like there's this great easy link to make there, but if you're setting, if you're going by that theory, that's one thing I really like about this film is that.
What would you call it? What would you call a Seven sequel? 7, 2 or 8?
They were looking to call it 8, and they were looking to have Morgan Freeman's character be like a psychic or something.
With the number 8 being the G.
Yeah.
There you go. Right, I've done a really rough tier list on here for you, Oliver. So then, do we go? No, don't matter. Right, let's do the 89 Batman then. So you've got first being the top, obviously. 2-1 being second tier, 2-2 being third tier, third being rubbish.
And then fail if there's anything, because I think
do you want to fail? One. Let's have a fail.
Fail.
Right, okay. So we'll just do the live action ones, otherwise we'll be here all day.
Yeah,
that will be a podcast.
We'll do that another time. Right.
Because no one talks about Mask of the Phantasm, and it's such a shame.
This is it.
Such a good film. Oh, even Batman Beyond Return of the Joker is a great film.
Yes.
Right.
I'm not really a fan of Beyond, but yeah, that is a good film.
So 89 Batman. Where are you putting this? Right at the top?
If not, it's the two.
No, I don't know. Do you know what? I think I know I'll step back on this one because Batman Returns is better. Yes, I do.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. I don't
think
I think it's better.
Really?
Yeah.
So much more of a mess of a plot though. Like Batman 89 is a lot more focused.
I know that, but Batman Returns is more Batman than Batman.
He murders a lot more people in Batman.
He does, yeah.
Batman.
Right.
But yeah,
I'm sticking Batman in 2-1 then.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Batman Returns.
You're putting that at first, really?
I put it 2-1 as well.
I put that too. Like I love it. Don't get me wrong.
But just
Returns.
Higher.
All right. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, in the same way that we love Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's one, despite the fact we acknowledge it is deeply flawed.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Batman Returns in particular. Less so about Batman 89.
Yeah, but in that sense, it's the same because Spider-Man 2 is better than Spider-Man 1.
Yeah, but Spider-Man 2 is like a step above. Like it is in quality for me.
Yeah.
Like whereas Batman Returns, I would argue is not as good a film. I still love it. Maybe it's more akin to like Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2. Amazing Spider-Man 2
Yes.
is not as
absolutely.
good a film as Amazing Spider-Man, but I love Amazing Spider-Man a lot.
I
more.
mean, Batman Returns is the quintessential argument of look at this sequel that got a bigger budget. Like,
Yeah.
look at how much more we're doing this time around.
I wouldn't have minded in Batman Returns for Penguin to have been a little bit more sympathetic, and then he gets driven to his horrible plot of kidnap all the children. I think that would have made it a bit better for me. But yeah,
Batman Forever. I would say 2-2.
I'd say low 2-2 or a high third.
I think in a weird way,
it's as bad as a third.
I think Robin kind of saves the Forever. I would say a little bit.
I hate Two-Face in this. He's a Joker clone.
Yes,
he's not Two-Face. He doesn't have a dichotomy about him. He's not Two-Face at all.
Yeah, he's just got two pairs of suits that he's hobbled together.
Yeah, the thing I love about this is Riddler's plan, because it's weird. It's one of those, like, it's a plan that at the time probably sounded a bit naff, and nowadays it's like really personal, like, because it's information theft, isn't it? He's basically Facebook. Like, that's really like, that's years.
Well, I think that's why he's a bit like, that's why I think like Robin's quite important in this film, because he's like he sort of fleshes out Batman quite a lot. Yeah. So that like bumps it up a little bit, but still it's pretty like if you came out to the Batman and you were like, oh, I want to watch Batman films, you would not go to that film. No. Like, and that's the issue. It looks incredible because it's a Joel Schumacher film. Like the look of it, like it's so he gets it looking incredible. But like Nicole Kidman, and it's not her fault. She is playing a slightly aroused woman, shall we say, as written by a homosexual man. So everything she says is just "Take me, Batman." Every single line she says is just "Take me, Batman." She's meant to be a clinical psychologist. She's like profoundly unprofessional.
It's Chase Meridian, isn't she?
Yeah, Chase Meridian.
And what a grand pursuit she must be, isn't it? Is that what Riddler says to her?
Oh,
Chase Meridian. I couldn't think of a second name. I was like, I'm sure
Chase Meridian. Sounds like a credit card. Right. Batman. Right, I'm sticking that in 2-2 then. Batman and Robin.
Is that a fail? I think that could be a fail.
It's a fail.
And I'm really nostalgic for it. I'm really nostalgic for it as well. And there's plenty of stuff that I do to this day still enjoy. Do you know what though?
Right. Yeah. Do you know what? I will say this, right? That of all the Batman films, if Thea came to me today and said, I want to watch a Batman film, that's the film I put on for her.
That's the film you put on for your kids to introduce them to Batman, I think.
Yes.
Maybe because it does that job really well.
Yeah. I'd show Ruby Forever, if I'm honest. Actually, Lego Batman would be the first point of call, and then I'd show Ruby Forever.
Point. Okay,
that's what I'm saying. As a live action of all of them, I'd be like, okay, we'll watch this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think as well, like Arnold has been a bit memed in this, but he's never been a particularly good actor. And he has some moments in this where he gets
Arnie in this.
He gets across Victor Freeze's story perfectly well. It's like that moment where like he's got his helmet off and he's like on death's door at the end, and like he's crying because Batman tells him his wife's alive. Like that's actually really sweet. Like there are good moments in this, but like you get Poison Ivy done awfully. Bane. What have they done to Bane in this film? No.
It's a fail.
And Robin is just this thing. Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. You child.
Robin trying to bet millions on a date with Poison Ivy as well. You've got no money, Robin.
Why does Batman have a stamped credit card?
Because he doesn't leave the cave without it.
Ew.
Yeah. So,
right.
But yeah, so I don't know if we'd say, I'd say it was a fail unless it depends on the audience.
Unless you need it as a gateway drug to the rest of the Batman film.
But then at the same time, if she watched that and was like, gonna watch this one and pulled out like Batman Begins.
That's how I got into Batman ultimately. I watched that and then my mum was like, right, you've watched it enough times now, watch this proper one. And I watched Batman 89.
What's this proper one?
Yeah. Because I've said to you a number of times now, Adam, I never gave my mum the credit that she deserved.
No, your
for
mum
being
seems
a
to be a
cinephile.
connoisseur of like. She's a cinephile, pure and
She
simple.
got me into Alien. She got me into Nightmare on Elm Street and other like horrors like that. She got me into The Matrix, and she got me into Batman. Like,
yeah. So
what a woman!
That's not bad. Like,
yeah, what a woman, eh?
Yeah.
um,
Batman. Just going off side note slightly. Batman. Where Batman gets his back broke. Night
Rises.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nightfall. Yeah.
Nightfall. Yeah. I got given that comic 29 years ago.
Jesus Christ.
That was the first comic I ever read.
There's Thea's inheritance.
Yeah, because yeah, we're doing okay with that. Like, I've got a few that yeah, I've got an original. This is going completely off, but anyway, you can cut this if you want. I've got an original 121 or 122 of Spider-Man when Gwen Stacy dies. Yeah, that I've never opened. So
just wouldn't, would you? Like,
just.
It's the first comic that ever made me cry though. And yeah,
I've got a Batman figure. Where is it? I'm gonna try and point it to it on there. You can't even do it. That thing there, right?
Oh yeah.
It's a Batman animated series figure. And when I was redoing the room, I almost took it out to just stand it on something. But a quick Google, quick eBay search, it's worth 80 quid in the box. So it's staying in the box.
Nice. That's nice. But yeah, I've got a few I haven't opened. But that's my oldest.
Yeah.
Is 121
That's
original.
and
I got it for 45p in a market.
Christ. How much profit?
45p I paid for
it. No one's then. Batman Begins.
Begins is good. Like, Begins is good.
It's like easy 2-1.
Yeah, 2-1. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think Begins is it's easy to forget how good it is because
I'd almost go first, but I'm not sure.
It's no, I think there are a lot of like the action's garbage.
Top end of 2-1.
Yeah, like you go back and try and
to
watch
be fair as well.
It's a mess.
Katie Holmes.
Yeah, Katie Holmes. Like, like she's smiling when she says everything. Your parents would be disgusted with you. Why are you smiling, you weirdo?
Even talking about it, the end, like railway scene.
Yeah.
Like, that's awful. Like, that's so bad. Like,
it's a great death for Ra's al Ghul.
Oh, it is, yeah. But the scene is just like.
And like, I'm confused. Like, the train still makes it into the building.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah,
and then the microwave machine burst up, so it would have still gone. Like, yeah.
There you go.
Dark Knight.
First. It is like it's the first. Like,
come on,
Ty, you're allowed to say it's the first and still think it's overrated.
Sure.
No,
you're allowed to do.
Do you know what? It's what? Yeah, it's like
we've got Undertaker podcast to do next week. Don't wind me up now. Like,
WrestleMania 30 is going #1, just so you know. I think it is a good film. It is really good, and it's there's nothing wrong with it, and it's exactly where it should be. But I think people are like, oh my god, that's just the best of that. And it's just like, I understand that, but like, come on.
Okay.
Like, it's like John Lennon's music. It's like, it's good, but come on. Like, come on. Like, I get it. That's what he's saying.
I understand the John Lennon argument, but I would not have put John Lennon.
Tell you what, to be fair, that comparison really speaks to me. Like, he's really getting
Liverpudlian soundbite of going. It's like John Lennon's music.
Like, it's good, but is it that good?
So, right, and like, if you put it in that context, then Jared Leto's Joker is Paul McCartney. That's what's happened there. You know what I mean? That he's not that bad, but everyone hates Paul McCartney, don't they? Because it's Paul McCartney, isn't it?
I don't know. Jared Leto's Joker is pretty bad.
I'm just saying. Right. So, do you think if you'd never seen Heath Ledger's Joker, that Jared Leto's Joker would be as bad as everyone says it is? That's the argument.
I think I'd have still seen Mark Hamill's, I'd have still seen Jack Nicholson's, and I'd have still known at some point that what's coming up. Like, and it's more the stories of what Jared Leto was doing on set to be like so edgy and method acting. Oh, I'm going to send condoms to my co-stars because that's what the Joker would do. No, he wouldn't. He'd send them a bomb, or he'd send them like Joker gash. You twonk. He's just wanted, like, he took this as an opportunity to be a prat when he didn't need to be. And
But that's not the Joker's fault.
No, I know, but that kind of energy came through in his role, and
it's okay.
Like even in the better stuff that Joker's been in, like in Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League, that shot at the end, it's still like, oh, your voice is off, and you just
yeah.
Like,
I didn't think it was that bad.
No.
Like I didn't think it was as awful as people were saying.
I think it could have been amazing.
Like I don't think he had enough time to like pursue, like to delve deep enough. He didn't have enough. To show what the hell he was doing. He was just a bit mad.
But then don't use him. Well, if you're not going to give him the time to do that, don't use him. Like,
okay. I think this might be the point where we disagree. Rises.
Yes. It's got to be 2-2, mate.
I'd say 2-1.
Nah, it's not. It's not on the same.
Yeah. What's wrong with Rises?
The plot. He breaks his back. Bane breaks his back, and then some old bloke puts a knee into his back to heal it again. And it is like, it's just like this again. There's so much about this I love, and it is a very high 2-2, but it's just such a disappointing crescendo after what we got in Dark Knight.
Like, you need to break the thing here.
See, that's the issue though, is that when 2 had that like that feeling towards it, and everyone being like, "Oh my god, it's amazing," and then Rises came out, and it's like, well, it's never going to be as good, and it couldn't have been. So it's like
it's weirdly messy though for a Nolan, because Nolan is a very meticulous director. Yeah. You look like you don't get that many mistakes, like little mistakes in Dark Knight. Like there's 1 or 2, I think, where you can see like a reflection of something or whatever. But in this one, you've got like fight scenes playing out where someone goes down without being punched, and that happens on like 2 or 3 occasions. It's weirdly messy for a Nolan film, and the plot is not as tight as it was in Dark Knight. Because I still think Dark Knight might have the best story out of any of the live action in terms of how tight the narrative is.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it just seems a bit of a mess. Like,
do you think he like phoned it in because he knew people would watch it because of the second one?
No, I don't think he's late. I don't think he's lazy in that sense.
That's what it sounds like. What you say.
I think he may have been rushed into getting it out when he got it out.
I think it was a studio interference thing rather than because Nolan has proven since, even with something as a plot as simple as Dunkirk, he's going to be incredibly meticulous in how
if you let him take his time.
Yeah, Inception. You can let him take his time, which is like Interstellar.
Yeah.
Even what was his other one where I was even with Tenet, where I think the plot is a bit convoluted, but it's because he's dealing with very complicated
I didn't understand Tenet. I just didn't get it at all.
Yeah.
But I think with Tenet, like if you watch it a couple of times, and I know that might be like a negative thing to say, you do come round to the idea. But I think with something like Tenet, clearly he had the time to go, if I give them a visual motif of red and blue, that can help, people understand a little bit more with what's going on here.
Whereas it was rushed. There's no reason that this shouldn't be this could have been quite a tight, simple plot, and it seemed a bit overcomplicated for the sake of it almost.
Well, begrudgingly then, I'm going to put it in 2-1, but it's going at the top of 2-1.
I would
2-2, you mean?
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I would say it's maybe no, I can't really. It's a weird film. These such good bits, but then such terrible bits.
Begrudgingly.
Yeah, it's like Bruce Wayne because of illegal stock exchange operations that happened. They would just be cancelled. Like,
give over about your stock exchange.
But that's a massive part of the film. Is that Bruce Wayne has become bankrupt and destitute. Like, anyway, how would those deals be allowed to stand? Someone broke into Wall Street and illegally traded on someone's behalf.
The biggest issue of the Rise is the Wall Street bit. Like, let's just come on.
They put a lot of importance on it though, because the whole reason there is that he's then on his own and he's cut off from a lot of his supplies. Like,
what are your thoughts on the whole Bane situation? Like,
I love Bane in that. I think they do it like in terms of making it a bit more realistic. I think they do as well as they can. Like, I like his voice. I don't get where the memes about his voice came from. It's Tom Hardy. He's going to do a voice like that. And
I love Tom Hardy.
Yeah, I love Tom, and he's incredible. Like, Bane is the best bit of that film today. I love I was absolutely glued to the screen every time Bane was on screen. And And I
Again,
love that.
Batman is not the best thing on any of them films.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Right.
What's the best thing in Begins then, Ty?
Liam Neeson.
Yeah, probably Liam Neeson. Yeah.
Maybe. Okay.
That whole idea of the League of Shadows and that I mean, that could have been a film on its own. I'll be honest, like just that bit. Like
I think it is a shame that they didn't, because I
like
remember someone saying this recently, that almost Ra's al Ghul could have been a title that was passed down. So Ken Watanabe, who you see, is actually Ra's al Ghul. He's not just a body double. And then Henry Ducard takes over the role of Ra's al Ghul, and that is how you get the immortal element.
Yeah, without the Lazarus pit.
That would have been quite nice instead of, oh no, he's a fake.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I'd even say Gary Oldman.
Yeah, he's very stellar in all of them.
Yeah,
like, he's a constant, like
right,
high level in all of them.
Batman versus Superman.
Right, are we rating the film as a whole or just the Batman stuff?
I mean, I would say it's a third, and it isn't a fail because of the Batman stuff.
Yeah, if it's the film, I'd agree with that. If it's just the Batman stuff, I think there's even an argument to put this in 2-1 or first. If we just
get away, man.
Just the Batman stuff.
It's good. I like the Batman stuff.
Yeah, the rest of the film around it is a complete mess.
Well, you've got to take that in.
Yeah. No, fine.
Well, before this, I'm quite controversial with this.
There we go.
Before the Batman, and I'd seen that, Ben Affleck was my second favorite Batman.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think he's a fantastic Batman.
the opening scene where he's on top of the roof, and he's like got that thug and he's hanging him type thing to get information.
Isn't that Justice League?
Is that Justice League?
I think that's
see now it all
Justice
merges into one.
See now it is, yeah.
Yeah, no. Right, BVS.
Right, forget me. It's all good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right, so Batman.
This one.
Yeah.
First.
It's called the Batman.
Yeah,
the
to be fair.
Yeah.
It makes you sound like Borat, doesn't it? Are you going to watch the Batman?
Yeah.
The Batman.
I seen a meme saying that you can tell that it was shot in Liverpool because it's called the Batman, like the Asda.
The Asda.
Because that's what
There's
we
been
do.
a robbery at Tesco's. Asda.
Yeah.
Tesco's.
Yeah. Because we call Asda the Asda.
The Asda, yeah.
So we'll call Batman the Batman. That's what we do.
Ty, are
We're not
you in
doing Justice
agreement
League.
that it's a first? Do you want to do Justice League?
Yeah. I mean, he's
Do you want to do Justice League?
Well, just both of them. Might as well put them in. Like, so Josh Whedon's fail. Batman is terrible in that as well. Like,
yeah. That's
See, but then I'd go right. So Josh Whedon's Justice League is a fail, but then I'd only put Snyder's at a third.
I wouldn't say it was a fail. I don't think that's fair. But I think
that was a really boring film to sit through.
Very
Zack Snyder's Justice League, I actually really like. Like, I'd at least put it in a 2-2.
Yeah, that was one of the
I am
because it was in 2 parts.
Yeah.
And one of the only times I've actually sat down and I watched both parts together. Like,
yeah,
because I was like
4 hours
excited for it. And as Adam, you can confirm, I don't have 4 hours to sit down.
He doesn't. Surprise is here this long.
I know.
Let me just say this: I'm fully aware that this is now probably a 2-hour and at least 20-minute podcast.
Get it, like the film.
So apologies to the people listening. I'm not snapping it into 2. That means I've got to do things.
Oh.
No. So
just trying to get you more content, whatever.
Right.
But Justice League by Zack Snyder is the first time I saw Ben Affleck's Batman and Bruce Wayne, and I liked the Bruce Wayne as well. I didn't like his Bruce Wayne in either.
I really like Bruce Wayne. I really like this Bruce Wayne because he's like an older guy and he's doing his thing and like.
Well, he didn't really do much in Batman v Superman, and then he's a bit Whedonized in Justice League. Whereas Zack Snyder gets him. It really establishes him as the leader of the Justice League, and that he has something to bring to the table.
Yeah.
He does like that. Yeah.
He's fleshed out a lot.
Breaks on. Right. The Batman. Are we putting it in first?
Yes.
Gotta be, hasn't it?
Right. Fine. Right. So, let's do this ranking then. Well, we'll do the ranking. So I'll go up from the bottom. Right. So, which is worst, Batman and Robin or Joss Whedon's Justice League?
Joss Whedon's Justice League. It's boring. Like
Yeah.
you can watch Batman and Robin, and it's still like visually engaging, and there's a lot of pretty things to look at, and there's some
Right.
sweet moments.
So
I don't remember
then-
anything positive.
The only thing
But
that kind of saves Justice League is the fact that there's so many of them. So if you kind of not engaged in one of them, you can kind of
yeah,
be like, oh, what Flash is gonna do? You know what I mean? Like it's one of them. But that's
Right.
not a good thing. Like,
So
yeah.
then are we Batman versus Superman, or are we Zack Snyder's Justice League?
Batman v Superman's worse.
I don't know about that.
because there's a lot going on. Like at least
Zack Snyder's Justice League made a lot of what happened in Batman v Superman kind of acceptable to me in the end. Like, I prefer Justice League massively to Batman v Superman.
Ty?
I think there's just better act.
like I think Batman vs Superman's insanely a more contained film, and it's a
I
bit
don't know.
more like,
I feel like it ruins a lot of like classic comic book arcs. We're not going to get a live action Batman v Superman again for a while. We're not going to get a live action Death of Superman again for a while.
I know
Like,
that, but
there's so many classic comic books they try to shoehorn.
we weren't going to anyway.
Still.
Like DC,
I think we could have done down the line. Like, and it just felt a bit shoehorned. And Jesse Eisenberg is awful.
the idea of having Henry Cavill as Superman and looking at him thinking, we need a new Superman. You don't know what you do. That's it. Like to look at it and be like, we don't need to make another one of them films is a bit like, wow, you do not want to make money. Jesus Christ. So
Right, I'm going.
I think it's a little bit better, I would say Batman vs Superman.
Right, so then
Batman wins.
yeah. Right, and then
That's
right,
the way
so
it works.
Batman Forever and The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, Dark Knight Rises is better than Batman Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
Right. So then 89 Batman, Batman Returns, and Batman Begins.
Oh, we're going to disagree on this, aren't we?
So I would go, I think I'd go Returns, Begins, Batman.
Like that.
As in
Returns
Returns
at
being
top.
the best,
Yeah.
then Begins, then Batman.
I would probably go 89, Begins, Returns. So I think the inverse of what you said.
Right.
I would say Returns 89 and then Begins.
So I would say that what that definitely does is it puts Begins probably third,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
fine.
89 Batman second, and then Returns top.
I'm happy with that.
What
So
did
then-
you say was top, Ollie?
I think 89 is the best out of those, but I'm
I
happy
put
to
Returns
yeah.
at the top. So that
Okay.
right, and then the Dark Knight and the Batman. I'd say the Dark Knight is just still the best.
Yeah, I probably would as well. I think this is the closest we've had. Even
Yeah, I'll agree.
to
I'll
that
agree with that.
conversation, even
No,
remotely.
yeah.
Yeah.
The thing
I reckon
is,
I could watch this again, and it might actually be like, do you know what? I actually prefer this.
I think it's going to be this tier system, if you like, is going to be even more interesting if they make a Batman 2.
Yeah.
The Batman 2. Because,
Yeah.
like, when? Because with Returns, it was like, it was established and like, yeah, you could just go straight in to be like, this is what we're doing, this is who these people are. And I think having that idea going into this one, into the next one, is its potential to be better, I would say.
Yeah.
Because the first one is touched so close to it, I think the second one can only, you would hope, surpass it.
That is the point, actually. Dark Knight does benefit from being the second in a series of films rather than being the first. So that is a very good point, actually.
If you've got a superhero film, the second one is more often than not better because
especially if they have the balls to go with like a not regularly touched on storyline like Hush or Court of Owls or something like that.
I think with anything, purely because they do
something new with
origin
it.
stories so often. So like you've got half of the film. If you look at any other Batman or like Spider-Man or whatever, half the film is him being bit by a spider. Like it takes a while to get a suit. Like if you can open a scene where you're swinging through the city, or it's just going to be better.
Yeah.
So
Right.
this
So
character is-
let me go up this list then. So bottom place, 11th would be Joss Whedon's Justice League. 10 would be Batman and Robin. 9 would be Zack Snyder's Justice League. 8, Batman versus Superman. 7, Batman Forever. 6, The Dark Knight Rises. 5, Batman Begins. 4, Batman 1989. 3, Batman Returns. 2, The Batman. 1, The Dark Knight. Yeah.
I'm a bit miffed that Snyder's Justice is actually worse than Batman Forever, but hey.
Yeah, that's a bold statement. That like on paper, but if you actually get into it, it does probably make a bit more sense.
Well, anyway, there's probably a fine chance that this tier list has gone out as a separate thing, because I'll have to see when we actually stopped talking the Batman, and then see how the length
Do
of
a
that
mini
is.
episode of thingy. I like it.
Yeah.
What's our next one we're doing? When's the next?
I don't know. What do we do a Morbius one? Oh, like
no, we don't do a Morbius
Strange.
No, yes,
Strange. Yeah. Maybe.
That might be the next one. Yeah.
Strange would be interesting.
That'll be all right, won't it? Yeah, we'll do that.
I still want a sequels one. Like I'm down for a sequels one.
Oh, well, we said which one, the better sequel and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. We'll figure it out. We'll do it.
Okay. Needs to be.
Yeah.
I mean, my answer to that's obvious, but hey.
Yeah. He's an Empire boy.
What? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Screwing your face up at.
Terminator 2, you weirdo. What are you talking about?
It's up there. Like that was my third. I put that as my third favorite film of all time.
It's the Dark Knight, you weirdo. What
I know fine well how good Terminator. That's the point, actually. I think I've got like 4, maybe 5 sequels in my best films of all time.
Yeah.
Endgame.
Toy Story 2, by the way. Just so you know. Does Endgame count?
Well, this is it. This is where we have to look at it, don't we? Because
let me voice is going now. We've talked.
I know this is it. Yeah.
I genuinely prefer Infinity War to Endgame as well. I want to know.
Wow, that's bold. That. Jesus.
I just think Thanos is the best bit of Thanos is one of the best characters we've had in all of the MCU, and you get that in Infinity War. Whereas in Endgame, he reverts to kind of just a weird, villainous, amorphous.
I mean, I don't think I'm ever taking those 2 posters out of those frames. They are staying in there.
Yeah,
it says a lot that we've ended a Batman spoiler
talking about
Thanos.
Yeah.
The DCU haven't got a chance, have they?
Have you seen that thing as well? There's a meme that's gone round of the Justice League. It's like, these guys wouldn't have a problem with Thanos, and someone's commented underneath, let him beat Rotten Tomatoes first.
Right. Oh, let's wrap it up then, so we can all get on with our lives. Because it's now 11:45 and we started at 9 o'clock. Yeah. Right. Thank you very much for listening. As always, you can help support Farrand on Film by going over to our sponsor, Offworld Tees, and using the code Farrand. That's FARRAND for 15% off your order. Follow me on Twitter at Adam Farrand. Follow me also on Twitter at Farrand on Film. Ty, you are at the Ty Edson.
I am.
Yeah. Ollie, what's yours? Ollie J. Ball.
Ollie J, but you don't have to follow me. I don't really tweet anything. Go for
he tweets about Manchester City more than anything else.
I don't tweet anything.
And then actually, what he does is he waits for you to be enjoying yourself and then tweets his derision towards it.
That's precisely
what he does.
No, just going back a little bit, when he went on in the Batman film, and they were like, "Oh yeah, he's like got this thing. He's got like 500 followers." Rachel leaned over to me and was like, "You've got more followers than that."
Yeah, I was like 500 followers is not.
I'm like,
hey, I've got more than that.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not a psychopath trying to kill people. Like, yeah, but you've got more than that.
But I thought the whole point, to be fair, was that he was gaining a hell of a following.
Yeah.
Like 500 followers. I could get 500 followers in a day.
I mean, he's got 500 followers. Only 20 of them shut up.
Yeah, that's it.
Most of them are trolls.
Yeah, that's it. Right, thank you very much for listening, and stay tuned to the podcast for coverage of the Manchester International Film Festival, which is coming up soon. Stay safe, look after each other, and we will see you next time.